Okay, the barrels are still up here. I don't know where they're talking about the barrels have been moved.
Like painters and cleaners and plumbers. Thumbtack's the app that finds local pros for you. It shows you prices, reviews, and when they're available. Now you can fix your house the same way you do everything else, with an app. Download Thumbtack today.
Everyone gets nightmares. I get my own from time to time. Trick or treat?
The Residence is all new. Then
911, what is your emergency? Bobby says he thinks a ghost called 911. Ghosts aren't real.
Anybody back here?
Oh my God. This is gonna be a long night.
all new Resident, followed by an all new 911, Monday on Fox.
Does it feel different to be up there without a rope?
El Cap is the most impressive wall on Earth.
It's 3,200 feet of sheer granite.
It is hard to imagine somebody up there by themselves.
What if I don't see him again?
You face your fear until it's just not scary anymore.
Free Solo, rated PG-13.
St. Jude exceeds any expectation or any dream I could have ever had about a hospital. The first was getting David here to save his life. But then I was told we wouldn't get a bill. I didn't quite process that. How's this possible? It's possible through all the wonderful people who donate. I don't know if they are aware of what they do, but they're saving children's lives every day.
Early voters in Texas raising concerns over what they say are malfunctioning voting machines. Some people who say they voted straight down the ballot, going all Republican or all Democrat, reporting machines that appeared to flip their votes all to the opposite party. The Texas Secretary of State's office says the issue has been reported with a specific kind of machine used in about 30% of the state's counties. But the office says it's the result of user error and not faulty machines. Animal rights on the ballot in California. Voters there are set to weigh in on a proposition that would ban the sale of meat and eggs from animals raised in confined spaces. Douglas Kennedy has that story.
We're going to see some major changes in the way eggs are produced.
Ken Klippen lives in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but he's trying to save egg farmers in the Midwest from a ballot measure in California. So if this ballot measure passes, it's going to affect egg farmers all over the country.
Absolutely, because it will be precedent setting.
Klippen is president of the National Association for Egg Farmers. Prop 12 in California would ban the sale of eggs from hens raised in small cages. It would also do the same for pigs and calves. What it really means is most farmers who sell their produce here in California will either have to change their farming practices or lose one of the biggest markets in the country. But even this third-generation cage-free farmer in California is against it.
Well, I'd say the people who do suffer in the end are the consumer because your price is going up.
So these cage-free eggs cost double today what the regular eggs cost. Some say you're simply taking away consumer choice.
Well, everyone from Walmart to McDonald's to Safeway to Denny's to IHOP are all switching to cage-free eggs.
Josh Bach is from the Humane Society of the U.S., the group that's pushing Prop 12. Klippen says it pretends to be a shelter organization, but is secretly pushing a national agenda. You say what they really want is to make people stop eating meat altogether.
Not only meat, but stop milk, stop eating eggs. So meat, milk, and eggs, that's their agenda.
So your critics say you're not really an animal shelter organization, and what you're really trying to do is turn people into vegetarians. What do you say?
Everyone from vegans to meat eaters can completely agree that animals should not be confined in cages.
Cages, he says, that are often too small to move an inch. In Southern California, Douglas Kennedy, Fox News.
President Trump declaring a major disaster in the northern Mariana Islands after a super typhoon tore through that U.S. territory Details just ahead.
If you have moderate to severe psoriasis or psoriatic arthritis, little things can be a big deal. That's why there's Otezla. Otezla is not an injection or a cream. It's a pill that treats differently. For psoriasis, 75% clearer skin is achievable with reduced redness, thickness, and scaliness of plaques. For psoriatic arthritis, Otezla is proven to reduce joint swelling, tenderness, and pain. And the Otezla prescribing information has no requirement for routine lab monitoring. Don't use if you're allergic to Otezla. It may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Otezla is associated with an increased risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts, or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur. Tell your doctor about your medicines and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Otezla, show more of you.
As a pro athlete, I know great performance starts with great sleep, and the Sleep Number 360 smart bed is my competitive edge. It intelligently senses our movements and automatically adjusts our firmness and support on each side to keep us both incredibly comfortable. It can even warm our feet to help us fall asleep faster. It's great sleep I can feel and see. Better sleep keeps me at the top of my game for this team and the home team. The new Sleep Number 360 smart bed from $9.99. It's proven quality sleep.
If you suffer from ED and you've seen your doctor about the little blue pill, you know it can be expensive. And seeing the doctor and waiting at the pharmacy can be a hassle. What if I told you that a certain little blue pill just came off patent December 11th? And that same active ingredient that's in the little blue pill is now available in generic form. No more getting ripped off by the big pharma companies. Here's what you do. Just go to 4hims.com/ED and get started for just $5 while supplies last.
Hi, neighbor. You're selling your action figures. You love those.
Oh, my car needs a new window track and the dealer wants a fortune. Time for desperate measures.
Don't pay crazy dealer prices when RockAuto.com has all the parts your car will ever need at half the price. Here's your window regulator. Pick the brand, click Add Part. It's easy.
With Rock Auto's low prices, I can fix my car and keep my action figures. And you too, Buster.
Rock Auto. All the parts your car will ever need.
All the parts your car will ever need. Rock Auto.
I want to get a bar put in over there. Do you know any good contractors? Yeah, I might. Nice! Give me a bunch of quotes, check the reviews, and verify the credentials and qualifications.
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything HomeAdvisor can. So just ask HomeAdvisor.
Thursday Night Football kicks off live from Fox Square with the Thursday Night pregame show.
We got to thank you guys for showing up here with us tonight.
Then Joe and Troy are on the call.
How about this? Great move. What a catch!
As Bay Area bragging rights are at stake when the Raiders take on the 49ers.
And he's got something to prove. Touchdown! Unbelievable!
Thursday Night Football on Fox, NFL Network, and streaming on Prime Video.
The most dangerous things you won't see coming. Something's not right.
You hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yeah, come!
This year is a changing of the guard.
Life Below Zero. New episodes Tuesdays at 9 on National Geographic.
An exclusive Fox Nation preview. Get a first look at our new streaming subscription service. See Opinion Done Right content from Tommy, Britt, Tyrus, Jesse, and Pete. And find out how to become a Fox Nation founding member. Don't miss Fox Nation First Look, Sunday on Fox News Channel.
The federal government sending aid to a U.S. territory in the Pacific devastated by Super Typhoon Yutu. It brought maximum sustained winds of 180 miles an hour. FEMA officials say military planes brought the Northern Mariana Islands food, water, tarps, and other supplies. Before we go, check on our top story tonight, that tragic mass shooting at a synagogue. Here's what we know. At least 11 people killed at a Pittsburgh synagogue. The alleged gunman, identified as Robert Bowers, now in federal custody and facing federal hate crime charges. Police say Bowers entered the Tree of Life congregation in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood of Pittsburgh, armed with an assault-style rifle and 3 handguns. Again, at least 11 killed, 6 injured, 4 of them responding police officers. And that's how Fox reports at this hour. I'm John Scott. Thanks for watching.
in Pittsburgh in a synagogue as a maniac fueled by hate opens fire on worshipers. Hello and welcome to a special 2-hour edition of Justice. I'm Janine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. We're going to talk politics a little later, but first the latest on what's been a tragic day in America. At least 11 people are dead and several more, including 4 police officers, are injured after a gunman walked into the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh and opened fire. The horrific act taking place during a baby naming ceremony. Officials have confirmed tonight that the victims were apparently targeted for one reason: their faith. Here's what we know about the shooting suspect right now. He is 46-year-old Robert Bowers, a man who apparently had made anti-Semitic comments online, but was not specifically known to law enforcement before today's massacre. He was injured in what investigators believe was a shootout with police, but is in custody and is expected to survive. President Trump has condemned the hate-filled crime as a, quote, wicked act of mass murder. But the president did go on with a planned political rally earlier this evening in Illinois. Here is some of what he said.
Before going any further, I want to address the horrible shooting that took place earlier today. The hearts of all Americans are filled with grief following the monstrous killing of Jewish Americans at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You've all seen it. You've been watching it. It's horrible. The suspect is in custody. The federal authorities are on the scene and leading an aggressive federal investigation. State and local law enforcement has been incredible. This evil anti-Semitic attack is an assault on all of us. It's an assault on humanity. It will require all of us working together to extract the hateful poison of anti-Semitism from our world. This was an anti-Semitic attack at its worst. The scourge of anti-Semitism cannot be ignored, cannot be tolerated, and it cannot be allowed to continue. We can't allow it to continue. It must be confronted and condemned everywhere it rears its very ugly head. We must stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters to defeat anti-Semitism and vanquish the forces of hate. That's what it is. Through the centuries, the Jews have endured terrible persecution, and you know that. We've all read it, we've studied it. They've gone through a lot. And those seeking their destruction, we will seek their destruction. Now, when you have crimes like this, whether it's this one or another one on another group, we have to bring back the death penalty. They have to pay the ultimate price. They have to pay the ultimate price. They can't do this. They can't do this to our country. We must draw a line in the sand and say very strongly, never again.
And we'll hear live from the president's son, Eric Trump, in a moment. First, though, let's get the latest on the shooting from Fox News reporter Garrett Tenney, live in Pittsburgh.
And Judge, several seasoned law enforcement officials have described this scene as the most horrific they have ever seen. Several dozen people were inside the Tree of Life synagogue this morning for Shabbat services, including some, as you mentioned, that were for a child blessing naming ceremony. It was around 9:45, or 9:53, just after those services had begun, when a man walked in with an assault rifle and 3 handguns, and he reportedly yelled, "All Jews must die," before he opened fire. Within a couple of minutes, the gunman had killed 11 people and injured 2 others. As he started to walk out, officers arrived on the scene and engaged him. he shot one of the officers and ran back inside, where he continued an engaging gunfire with SWAT officers as they tried to talk to him. By the end, he had shot 2 more officers, received several gun wounds himself before he surrendered. This evening, Pennsylvania's governor said words cannot express the way his state feels tonight.
My heart breaks for the members of the Jewish community. Today, all of Pennsylvania mourns with you. Anti-Semitism has absolutely no place in our Commonwealth. Any attack on one community of faith in Pennsylvania is an attack against every community of faith in Pennsylvania.
The FBI has identified 46-year-old Robert Bowers as the suspect. They say he is from here in the Pittsburgh area, and there's not a whole lot they know about him at this point. They are trying to gather up more of his background, who he was, what he's been up to, what potentially led him to commit this attack. We do know that he was believed at this point to have been not have been on law enforcement's radar prior to today's shooting, but they are searching several of his residences that he was associated with here, including an apartment. And earlier tonight, some neighbors of that apartment told local reporters that he was quiet, kept to himself, but they said they didn't see any red flags throughout. And that's a common theme we hear in situations like this, Judge. The FBI says that they do plan this to be a full, wide investigation that will be covering every aspect of this man's life. They are digging into his social media presence, and one of the things they are investigating is the possibility that he may have announced his intentions to carry out this shooting on social media. This afternoon, the social media site Gab, which bills itself as a free speech alternative to Twitter, said it verified and then suspended an account that was linked with his name. And on that account, the account had made several anti-Semitic posts, including one just before the shooting this morning, which concluded with, quote, "I'm going in." Now, we're just getting word that the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Pennsylvania has filed charges against that suspect just in the last few minutes. Earlier, Attorney General Jeff Sessions said those federal charges would include hate crime charges and would include the possibility of the death penalty. Judge?
Garrett Tenney, thanks so much. And joining me now on the phone, Executive Vice President of the Trump Organization and the President's son, Eric Trump. He joins me now by phone. Good evening, Eric.
Good evening, Judge. How are you?
Your reaction, Eric, to the horror that happened today in a place of worship in Pittsburgh.
Listen, America mourns, right? I mean, this whack job destroyed lives. He upended a community. He should get the death penalty. I mean, there's no question about it. He should absolutely get the death penalty. You know, there's 11 people who are no longer on this earth because of his actions, and it's horrible. And you know what we do in time like this also need to give a major shout-out to law enforcement, because the job they did today was incredible. I mean, just absolutely incredible.
Right, and I'm going to talk about that more with some of my law enforcement guests. But, you know, Eric, as we look at the news of the past week, is it a sign of the times? Yesterday, someone arrested for sending pipe bombs to several people, and then today, this individual shooting up in a place of worship and killing 11 people, 6 more injured. Is this a sign of the rhetoric and the outrage that people are hearing? Is there any correlation between the two?
I don't know. Listen, there might be and there might not be. I mean, at the end of the day, this is obviously a very sick, deranged human, subhuman. He shouldn't even be called a human, but, you know, I mean, it's a very, very sick, deranged person. They did this. And, you know, it seems like we've gotten to a point in life and society where everything has to be kind of politicized. Everything has to be, you know, somebody has to point a political finger to absolutely everything. I mean, at the end of this day, this guy is a sick person. He did the most unthinkable thing imaginable. He went to a place of worship, shot it up. Again, there are 11 people who are dead now because of it. And, you know, I think we should actually try and pull politics out of some of these things. I mean, this person doesn't represent the left. He doesn't represent the right. The person was sick, deranged. And, again, I truly hope, if found guilty, which he will be, that he gets the death penalty.
All right, and certainly a good point in not viewing everything through the political lenses that people seem to be looking through these days. But let me ask you about your dad. Your dad indicated today that he thought about actually canceling the rally. But he said something interesting. He said, we don't want to let those crazies control, what we do. And it kind of reminds me, Eric, I mean, you were in New York, in New York City on 2001 9/11, as was I, where we all said we're not going to let these crazy people stop us from conducting our ordinary everyday affairs. Do you think your dad should have gone through with that rally?
I do, and I thought he said it beautifully. I mean, he said you can't let evil change your life, and I think that's 100% right. I mean, if every single time evil lashed out, it changed everybody's pattern, it changed our lives, it changed society stopped, you'd live in a much different world. And, it's always incidents like this, whether it be the 9/11s or, tragic shootings like the one we had today, that actually brings America together. And clearly the person is trying to tear apart, our country apart, a community apart. They're trying to do massive evil. And it's amazing how the world works, that, sometimes it actually does the exact opposite. Once you get past the horrible act, it actually brings society together. And, you have an entire country that's mourning for, a small town in Pennsylvania and for a specific synagogue and for a group of people, again, whose lives were upended. And so, this does bring America together in a time where, you can say that, America can often be fractured because of, so many different, variables.
I think the sad part, it's always sad, but the selection of a particular group based upon their religion in a place of worship on Shabbat. I mean, it is a particularly heinous act. But let's talk about what's going to happen in the next 8 or 9 days. The midterms. How does America turn from its focus on some of these horrific things that we're seeing daily in the news to focusing on what's important in terms of the country continuing on the course that it's on, and getting people to focus on real politics as opposed to the rhetoric that is making up politics?
Well, and you do hope they focus on the real issues as opposed to rhetoric. This obviously aside, because this is absolutely horrible what happened, and you have other tragedies. I mean, obviously look at the hurricane that hit North Florida, the Panhandle of Florida so hard. But obviously, those are unthinkable things. But you do think that people can get past some of the other rhetoric that they see in the media every single day, because Judge, America's winning right now. I mean, we're winning. Our economy's winning. Our military's winning. Our veterans are winning. I mean, just about everything's winning. I mean, we've got the fastest growing GDP and, one of the fastest growing GDPs in the history of the country. We have the lowest unemployment. Manufacturing is coming back to this country. The stock markets are at record highs. 401ks have done tremendously well, and I can go on and on and on. The price for prescription drugs is coming down, something that my father made a big focus on last week. I mean, I could talk about it for hours, but, I mean, our country is thriving. We're no longer getting ripped off by China. We're no longer getting ripped off by Mexico. We're the envy of the world right now. I mean, America is the envy of the world, and it's hard to say in a day like today when something so tragic happened. But our economy is doing great. Our country is doing great. We're just rated the #1 economy on Earth, and so you hope a lot of the rhetoric gets put aside, and you hope people focus on all the positive attributes and, the many great things that's happening in our country right now.
But, when you talk about it, Eric, it's almost as though there isn't one metric that hasn't improved under your father, and yet the left is so dug in, so angry. And when you see, the rhetoric of people who are congresswomen, congressmen, you wonder how you can get people to take their sights off of that anger and turn it towards something positive.
Yeah, it's almost amazing. When you're doing the best, it's almost people are the most angry, and it's kind of interesting. And I've seen it personally, where you see a lot of the left lashing out, and they don't have a great message right now. They want to double people's taxes. They want to constantly attack law enforcement. Again, days like today make that just unthinkable. I mean, they're the bravest men and women that we have in the country, but
without a doubt,
the country is doing amazingly well. We're winning. We're winning on every metric, and if you can put aside the rhetoric, and you can actually look at quantifiable, statistics and quantifiable measures, our country is doing the best it's ever done before. And as Americans, hopefully days like today make us rally around that we are Americans, that we all you know, bleed the same red, white, and blue. I mean, we love this country. We love our nation. We want our nation to be successful,
and our people to be safe.
Everybody should cool it down a little bit.
Yes. All right. Eric Trump, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks, Judge. Great to be here.
All right. Thank you. All right. Let's talk more about the suspect and where this investigation could go. Joining me now is the former member of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, retired police officer Steve Rogers. All right, Steve. You got to tell me something I don't already know about this guy. I find out that not only is he has an active license to carry a firearm, okay, but in addition to that, he is a Trump hater. He rallied against the Jews. He had this blog. He posted on this blog, HIAS, which stands for Hebrew Immigration Aid Society. He says HIAS likes to bring in invaders that kill our people. I can't sit by and watch my people get slaughtered. I'm going in.
Well, Judge, I'll tell you something you don't know about the police response. First of all, people have asked me all day, how is it that the police were so effective so quickly on this Pennsylvania incident and the one in New York? And the answer is the President of the United States quickly and immediately mobilized federal law enforcement officers, the FBI, the ATF, you name it, the President sent them down. And as a result, they quickly closed the case in New York. And you're going to get all the answers to those questions in PA. And let me add this. Did we not forget that it was the prior administration that took the tactical equipment police needed today to nail that guy in PA? It was President Trump who restored it.
Isn't that interesting? I remember this. Under the Obama administration, they were taking this stuff away, this tactical equipment. All right.
President Trump gave it back.
All right. All right. So we've got that. And obviously that is great. And this was an incredible amount of time in terms of how they got in there and how this coward went back in. And unfortunately, now we've got 4 police officers injured, I believe.
Yes.
All right. So this guy, we know that he had a license to carry a firearm, correct?
Yes.
All right. Do we know anything more about it? It's an active license. How did he get it?
Well, these are the questions that are certainly going to be asked. As you know, it's a long investigation, but they're going to try to find out where the weapons came from, how did he actually get it. They're going to do forensic studies on all of his computer equipment, cell phones, etc. But you know what's going to be important here?
What?
The psychological profile that the criminal psychologists are going to make on this guy after they speak to him.
All right. You and I, both in law enforcement, talk to me like you're talking to the DA at the time, okay? Good. I don't really care what his motive is because the jury, although they may want to know it, you know, the proof is, did he commit the crime or did he not? Is he sane or is he insane? Do we know if the guy had a job? Did he function normally? Do we know anything about that?
Nothing about it right now, Judge, and these are the questions that are going to be answered. But did he do it? Of course he did it, as you said.
So
he
then the only
crime.
justification or the only excuse, not justification, that he can proffer is I was nuts, I was mentally insane.
Judge, I don't even buy that. You know, we have people running around saying, oh, it's because of rhetoric, it's this and that.
Oh, that's hogwash.
Well, you're darn right, it's hogwash. He is responsible for his actions. In regard to all the nonsense about rhetoric, what about the Hollywood movies and violence and all these other things that are around us that promote violence? What about that? Okay, so he's responsible for his actions, no one else.
And I'm going to add something else. The statement that I just read that he posted today indicates premeditation, clear intent, focus, lucid, clear, I'm going in. This guy is connected to time and space, and he knows exactly where he is.
Bring that before a jury, and a judge says guilty.
Guilty.
There you go.
Well, if the judge is, you know. All right, Steve Rogers, thanks so much for being with us tonight. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, take care.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, and our live coverage of this breaking story in Pittsburgh continues. Special 2-hour edition of Justice rolls on in a moment with guests including RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel, Corey Lewandowski, former Washington, D.C. Police Detective Ted Williams, and more. Back in a moment.
Today, 97% of employers agree that skills like teamwork, attention to detail, and customer service are critical to business success, like the ones we teach here every day.
To look at me now, you don't see psoriasis. You see clear skin.
Cosentyx can help people with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis find clear skin that can last. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor about an infection or symptoms if your inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen, or if you've had a vaccine or plan to. Serious allergic reactions may occur.
How sexy are these elbows?
Ask your dermatologist about Cosentyx.
He'd be proud of us.
Protect your family, your business, and everyone who counts on you. See how Lincoln can help.
When was the last time you did something for the first time? Discovered water that was 20 shades of blue. Where a butler served you cocktails on a beach. Ever dined in Paris one night and in India the next? Or the last time you felt like this? Sandals Resorts. With everything included, there's a first time for everything. Call 1-800-SANDALS.
American Horror Story Apocalypse. All new Wednesday at 10 on FX. See it ad-free. Upgrade to FX Plus.
Everyone gets nightmares. I get my own from time to time. Trick or treat.
The Residence is all new then.
911, what is your emergency? Bobby says he thinks a ghost called 911. Ghosts aren't real.
Anybody back here?
Oh my God. This is gonna be a long night.
All new Resident followed by an all new 911 Monday on Fox.
The deadly Pittsburgh synagogue shooting. As events unfold and critical new details come to light, stay with Fox News Channel for continuing coverage.
Meet the Sarahs. This Sarah deals with bladder leakage by wearing pads, taking medication, and carrying an extra set of clothes. This Sarah used a non-prescription device called Apex M in the comfort of her own home just 10 minutes a day. In just weeks, her bladder leakage was resolved with no side effects. Don't just deal with the problem. Cure yourself with Apex M from In Control Medical. No pills, no pads, just dry.
Today is the beginning of a bright new future for this country.
Won't live a life on my knees.
The voters are coming.
Breaking tonight, 11 people inside a Pittsburgh synagogue are dead. More are injured, as are at least 4 police officers who responded to the scene. The gunman in custody. Joining me now to talk about the investigation and where we go from here, former Washington, D.C. police detective and defense attorney Ted Williams. Good evening, Ted. Tell me something I don't know.
Well, Judge, let me tell you something that you do know. I heard you in the last session with Steve.
3311, both units arrived, 10-4.
Is 1 in 4 older people. For 1 in 4 older people, the TV is their main form of companionship. The question for the BBC is therefore how they intend to fulfill the responsibility they have taken on as regards to the TV licence concession for the over 75s. who are amongst the most loyal and committed viewers and listeners, the majority of whom live on only modest incomes. And if you look at that, they're saying, what is this? Almost 4.5 million people who watch the BBC are over 75. That's such a huge chunk of their audience.
I have a choice
that many
here.
people are watching
I have a choice here. Do I watch my old mate Greg Dyke get beaten up by 4 of us, or do I come to and say, I'm just going to join in? Greg, you're talking...
It's good to see.
Yeah, well, what did you think? Did you ever doubt it? The House of Commons Library, let's take a look at this. As Michel said, this is the amount of money raised from the licence fee. Try £3.8 billion. Can I suggest £3.8 billion? Can I suggest? And in the days, and I'd be... Because let's remind everybody, you ran the place not that long ago.
No.
I don't know how...
now.
Is it now?
Long.
OK.
A decade.
But I don't know whether you're aware of the Netflixes and the Amazons and all that. Television, you know this better than I do, Greg, is delivered in such a different way now. As Michel says, the whole idea of a licence fee. I remember once when I was working in America, I described it to some Americans and they were amazed. So they said, so even if you never drive on the freeways, motorways, you only ever use the side roads, you still have to have a licence? And I said, yeah, even if you only ever watch Sky or you only watch ITV, you still... It's done, it's antiquated. Michelle's right, you can't switch it off like that because I appreciate there are funding issues and we all want parts of the bee to survive.
She's in charge of all the traffic on the outskirts.
It's a different discussion.
Coming down there for one thing, and then you decide you go over to Broadway. That was a mistake.
Of funding the BBC without bus violence.
Are they moving the barricades or just flicking through the barricades?
That's not the specific. That's not the specific issue I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that sometime in the next year, you are asking a bunch of BBC governors to decide whether or not we should continue to subsidise the oldest and some of the poorest people in the country.
You know what they're going to do, don't you? They're going to not do it because they want to save the money.
I went back through the whole month, and this is the only call this month from her phone number. Let me actually call her back to see who she reported it to.
Yes, I've been paying long enough.
Yes,
absolutely.
I want a bus pass and a TV licence.
Here's, we got that one, Route 27 leaves at 9 o'clock. That's the last one.
Services. And you know why they do? Because they've been paying into the system longer.
Right, can we listen? Can we just listen to...
You should be thanking them.
Yes. Let's listen to the new Greg. This is the new Greg, the Director General of the BBC, Lord Hall. Let's listen to what he says.
We've got, on the one hand, inflation in the content market. On the one hand, our audience is expecting us to do different things, and you know, their expectations have gone up. On the other hand, real hardship among pensioners. This is a very, very difficult issue, and I suspect it's one of the reasons why we have to think about it, and the government said over to you, is because it's a very, very hard thing to work through, and I know the board will take that very, very seriously.
Tony is a terribly polite man who never, I mean, what he should have said then was, and the government should never have given this to us. Now, when they tried to do it before, his predecessor said, and the chairman, both said, if you do this, we'll resign. And the government backed off. They accepted it, and I think it was a mistake. Because
should he have threatened to resign?
Who? He should have threatened to resign like Mark Thompson did before him, because actually they've left the governors in a ridiculous position. And the what do the governors do? They're there to make sure there's a good BBC. And this decision is a decision for politicians, and if it's unpopular because they've got to do it, that's the politicians' fault.
But
they've got to take that decision.
Do you accept if they did take this away from pensioners, that it would make a mockery of their role as a public service organisation?
No. You don't accept that? I think you could well subsidise the poorest pensioners. I think all the evidence that you can find shows that actually the number of poor pensioners today compared with 20 years ago...
2 million people living in poverty.
Sure.
2 million.
So subsidise those 2 million. But
don't subsidise
4.5 million.
I don't know about you, Greg, but I'm looking forward to my freebies. Yeah. I'm looking forward to my free licence, my bus.
By the time you get there won't be any.
Because you paid for it. That's the truth.
You haven't paid for it. You paid for what you consume in the year as the BBC.
I'm just going to summarise this debate. He wants us just to pay more tax and get less things for free. There you go. Just in case you missed that, that's what he said. So I'm up after the break, and I'm lighting up the debate over whether we should be smirking at our hospitals.
here in Murfreesboro, Illinois at the next Trump rally. Better today, just like the Red Sox and the Dodgers do. We had a crew in Charlotte, North Carolina yesterday. Tom and I are here in Murfreesboro, Illinois with our cameraman who traveled all morning this morning to get here. So make sure you guys show him some love and respect in the chat.
I've had the misfortune of visiting a few different hospitals recently, and at each one I've been struck by the number of people, often patients, smoking right outside the doors, despite, in most places, signs clearly stating that the area is a no smoking zone. People just cannot seem to help themselves, and the rules are blatantly ignored. So enter Pinderfields Hospital, which has a solution. They've recorded 9 messages, playable by staff or members of the public at the click of a button. Once activated, these messages will play over a tannoy in the problem areas, reminding people not to smoke there. While some may think it's embarrassing or a step too far, I applaud the hospital's no-nonsense Yorkshire approach. If it helps keep sick people clear of harmful cigarette smokes, then it gets a thumbs up from me.
Yeah. Michelle, I don't know what's going on today, but I 100% agree. I mean, I think, yeah, I think your intro was absolutely spot on. And good on Mid-Yorkshire Hospitals. I think this is brilliant. I want to pick up a quote from the General Manager of Facilities, and this is what he says in terms of why they introduced the system. We've introduced the system because it's vital we take every possible step to discourage smoking. Patients and visitors, including newborn babies and those arriving by ambulance, often have to pass through cigarette smoke at our hospital entrances, which is totally unacceptable. Our goal is to have smoke-free sites, and the ability to broadcast these messages is a crucial step towards this. Completely. You go to a hospital, hopefully, to get better, not to actually become, get worse because you're, around cigarette smoke. So
I hate smoking. Generally, I hate it when you go to restaurants with other people smoke. I hate that. Having said that, when I read this story, they've got 9 messages. Some of them are children's voices that say, someone's nanny, grandma, mum, your daddy's having cancer treatment today. Thank you. Now, I think this is it's too preachy. It's too nanny state. If you're going to have a rule about no smoke, if you're going to have a rule about it, enforce it. Don't have messages. Have a security guard.
Right to be around the country.
It's got to be cheaper than this.
Coming in this country and even seeking asylum. President Trump orders the National Guard to the U.S.-Mexico border.
And I don't listen to it. I've got to be honest. I don't even pay attention. And then if you remember, children's voice, and it was the first time when I heard that kid's voice that I stopped and paid attention to this announcement, because it was not what I was expecting. I listened to the children, and it really made me zone in. And I actually think that the use of children saying, actually, my mum, my nana, my dad is having treatment, and it's a wonderful tool to make you pay attention.
Yes, I've never seen anyone smoking in his base. And the Republicans
I haven't. The hospitals that I've been in
Democratic base. And this election is going to be all about you.
And that makes total sense to me, because, I mean, I don't smoke, I used to smoke, but I get it from addiction. Some people need to do it.
Key districts and key battleground states.
To me, this is too nanny state.
By doing this, and it's really the only play the president has here.
They're not expected to be involved in any.
But it will also apply to the Democrats. The question is which base goes out to mission. They need 23.
Follow the rules then. If you don't
to take 23 seats away from Republicans to take the House, and Democrats are still.
And Othell and the legislation
that they have an outside shot to maybe create a tie in the Senate, maybe even get a one-vote majority.
And I'm all in favour of this. But then I'm weighing in on the use of executive action.
He is kind of playing with fire here by doing this.
Claiming a
This seems to be the #1 issue for debate for his base, and it's all about
the person who was going to smoke at the entrance to a hospital is
is now at 44-21.
I don't think it goes so far. I wouldn't have these announcements. I would have buckets of water. You press a button and the guy will get speakers. I would go further. I would go further. Broaden it out a little bit. And I think I've certainly said this on the radio.
To like 3,000 or 4,000. Mexico was
and you continue presenting
them to stay in Mexico before they even get here.
Do you think he's going to success? I think you start to pay a slight cost.
I think all we can expect is the president here
to hundreds of thousands of pounds, continually putting someone's lungs right. This is just taking the idea of
at least certain lives to look at
God-given right to sit outside.
These folks are walking. Some of them are certainly members of this caravan that's making its way through Mexico toward, from what I gather, some are children. And you know, it's a hard journey. America's on the border right now to try to block them from entering the country.
Wales and Northern Ireland, where they have banned
to walk from Central America, preventing them and from North America, the United States. The White House is saying
absolutely unfair.
We're ill, they're malnourished, they're dehydrated. Some of this is just even claiming asylum, that they're not safe back in their comments, and it's just the physical cost of making this journey. These are Central American countries, especially his language as an attorney. He's up front about it. I've learned covering Central America presidents. So that's what, that if you listen hard, the president could sign this order.
Even though you've got an addiction, you wouldn't sit in this room and like, because you've got an addiction, you'd go, well, I can't smoke in here. So I need to go outside.
As soon as next week, I would look for the president definitely sign this thing as a before election day. Now, what may happen after that, the better barometer here is probably
they sound like very different words, but in my accent, apparently they sound like the same words.
The so-called travel ban and the Muslim countries. That was a major court fight. And again, he's going to keep hammering this and hammering this and by doing that,
in this instance, is
expect a major speech.
Right. You're right, but what happens in pubs is the norm.
If it's effective, fine. If it's not, they'll stop it, won't they? It's as simple as that. But if it's effective...
Do you not think having a security guard...
He hits the trail very hard for the next few weeks. Thank you. We will be talking about this.
Will Vice President Pence travel to Arizona to support Senate candidate Martha McDowell, who is currently locked in a tight race with their Democratic challenger,
better things to do than more people around.
Talking about this and court cases here, because that is just like
in southern Illinois right now, live shot for you, firing up Republican voters.
You're in your favorite restaurant and that's exactly what he wants. Another portion of chips or fried chicken. And a voice comes on, don't eat those chips, put those down, they're going to make you obese. Would you satisfied with that?
After the election. I mean, you raise it.
Why? It's going to cost the NHS.
No. Hang on. Obesity. Let me answer your
question. Point. If he has emergency actions to block people from coming in this country,
to be eating fish and chips, and I ignored those rules and ate multiple fish and chips, then I would feel that the restaurant is within their right to do whatever they want to tell me to pack it in
legally.
If I could say,
I have
deeper than the ocean.
You can't eat those.
The world doesn't exist outside.
Totally, that's a false comparison because at the end of the day, you eating chips, that's going to be effective. Somebody smoking, no,
it affects the NHS.
No, but that's a different argument. That's about the cost and the burden of the NHS. What this thing is for is to make sure that other patients aren't impacted by the health risk.
That's right.
And do you not accept the announcement?
Yes, just to let you know, my gender says card misdeed. It doesn't want to give out the transfer.
Yes.
Well, that was much more effective.
The smoke clears now, fellow pledgers,
and the Republican base.
Will also fire coming up. If you wish,
40,000 biopharmaceutical researchers go bold to discover treatments and cures on the verge of more tomorrow.
Key districts and key battleground states. And by doing this, it's really the only
Hello, I'm Kieran Cole with your showbiz news. Caitlyn Jenner has admitted her regrets over supporting Donald Trump as she criticised the president's stance towards the LGBT community. The 68-year-old had been a prominent backer of Mr. Trump during the 2016 presidential campaign, but she has now withdrawn her support following a leaked government memo proposing fundamental changes to the way gender is defined. The unreleased report from the US Department for Health and Human Services calls for a tightening of the legal definition of sex, excluding transgender and non-binary individuals. Pierce Brosnan has reunited with the children from Mrs. Doubtfire to mark the film's 25th anniversary next month. The James Bond star posted a video on his Instagram of his meeting with Mara Wilson, Matthew Lawrence and Lisa Yakub. He said Sally Field, who played the mum in the movie, is on a book tour and that Robin Williams is in heaven making the angels laugh. Ariana Grande has announced a world tour based on her latest album, Sweetener. The singer confirmed a string of dates across the US, beginning in Albany in New York in March 2019 and ending in New York City in June. In between, Grande will perform in cities including Chicago, Los Angeles and Dallas. International dates for the tour have not yet been announced. The Sweetener tour will be Grande's first since 2017's Dangerous Woman tour, which was interrupted by a suicide bomber attacking her concert in Manchester. And Little Mix have released the music video for their latest single, Woman Like Me, which features US rap star Nicki Minaj. It features members Jade Thirlwall, Perry Edwards, Leanne Pinnock and Jessie Nelson seated in the back of what appears to be a riot van before later dancing around a stately home. The song is currently number 5 on the UK singles chart. Woman Like Me will appear on Little Mix's upcoming album, LM5, which is due to be released on November the 16th.
Maybe just be mine for the weekend. We can get a takeaway and sit on the couch, or we could just go out for the evening. Hopefully end up where you kiss.
Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. A long, long time ago, in the case of the Brothers Grimm, try over 200 years ago, some very clever people wrote nice stories of make-believe, such as Cinderella and Snow White, in which a handsome prince kissed a girl who'd been poisoned by an evil witch. They clashed over lookist issues, and who was in a coma. She was about to die. So 7 of her closest friends, who make that born with dwarfism, begged him to do it. But the prince was a naughty man. He didn't ask permission before kissing the comatose girl. Indeed, he didn't ask whether she was actually a man just self-identifying or LGBTQ+. Now, some very cross campaigners, some of whom are wealthy beyond the dreams of priests, thanks to starring in similar stories, are stamping their Louboutin-clad feet and even banning their own children from watching the film. Yes, boys and girls, if they take offences easily, it's safe to assume they're unlikely to live happily ever after.
Do you have your cell phone on you? Let me give you a signal.
Nick, I think we could get on with the show. Of course, and you're referring, I presume, to Kieran Knight. Kieran Knight. Let's just start off by having a look at what she actually said.
I'm very aware of what I'm marinating my child in.
So
there's a couple of like stories, just theme-wise, that I'm not cool with. It's like, no, it's not cool to like wait for a rich guy to save you. Like, save yourself. No, it is never cool for any man that you don't know to kiss you in your sleep without consent. Not okay. No, never give your voice up for a man. Absolutely not. Not okay.
You went ahead and maybe spoke about
one of the shocking things if you've had kids and you've had boys and girls is just how different they are quite quickly.
910 transit, 1044.
You know, I always remember the first girls' party we ever had, everybody was nice and polite, and the boys came in and nutted the wall, and I could never... I always thought they've been brought up the same. And I then, years later, became chairman of an animation company. And
is there any job you have?
Yeah. No, I've done most jobs for a while. But what was really interesting is there were boys' toys and girls' toys. And it was as straightforward as that. And it didn't matter what you did. I mean, Thomas the Tank Engine sells to young boys. I mean, it's not to say girls don't use it, but it sells to young boys. And therefore, I'm not sure that the influence she wants to have won't bounce back on her.
Right, OK.
In truth. And that actually, I understand what she's on about, but I'm not sure it'll actually work.
OK. June.
Well, you know what, it's funny. You know I am a proud feminist, but I think this is why feminism gets a bad name. Because sometimes it is just too over the top. Bloody hell, it is a fairy tale. And now if all you are doing is reading your children fairy tales, then we have a problem. But if you're making sure that you're countering that narrative with something else, then there's no problem.
Well, that is the other argument. If you discuss it, if you read it to your child, possibly your daughter, you then can explore issues of consent and empowerment.
But not necessarily their kids. I don't want to be talking about that early on. And also there are other things. You can then make sure you're telling them about women who've done great things in history, whatever.
Or don't take apples from strangers.
Exactly.
Don't take, as in The Witch.
Well, also, nobody tells you that you've got to read that story about 200 times to this child, so you're not going to discuss it in depth every time, because all you really want to do is go to sleep.
One final point. It's actually also quite hypocritical of Keira Knightley, because she made those comments while actually promoting a Disney film, The Nutcracker, and The Four Realms, where she plays a sugar plum fairy. Not much feminist about that, is there?
You know, fairy tales are supposed to be about fantasy. They're not supposed to be about sending subliminal messages about feminism and about independence. And I just think the greatest irony in all of this is Keira Knightley herself.
Exactly.
This is a girl who has done extraordinarily well with her incredible beauty, but her not so incredible acting talents. You know, her success is the big fairy tale here, and she doesn't actually say it. And I think
that's
girls,
your view. I think the millions of people who go to see her movies might say differently.
I suspect little girls would be far more influenced by the waif-like models they see in magazines than by the characters in a Disney movie. Don't you think? I completely think so.
Michelle.
Well, when I was doing this topic, I was almost, well, I was ready to go, what a load of bloody nonsense, you know, kicking off because someone's kissed Snow White and all the rest of it. And then I've really thought about Disney movies. Now, my childhood, and sorry, Mum, if you're watching, but my childhood wasn't ideal, to say it mildly. And I did used to watch Disney movies and read books. And as I sit here now, if I'm honest with myself, and I can't even believe I'm about to admit this, but if I'm honest, I would say that my outlook, expectations and desires have been, in some ways, shaped by Disney movies. Well, I do. I'm a hopeless romantic. I'm often disappointed in relationships.
That's a product of what you watched as a child.
Yeah, because I'm being completely honest here. Like,
you think Prince Charming was going to... You genuinely believe Prince Charming
was going to...
Well, like, for example,
like, one of my favourite... And this is a really strange conversation for me to be having, because I'm like, my brain right now is saying, oh, don't say this and challenge this. But when I watch a Disney movie, it does something to me. It gives me goosebumps, it makes me feel a certain way. And one of my favourite movies is Up. I don't know if anyone's ever watched Up.
No.
And I come from a home that's not, you know, it was not a pleasant place to be when I was growing up. And when you see Up, it's this great story of this couple, and they come together and they live this great life and they adventure. And I used to watch stuff like that and just think, oh, I want that to be like...
Just to pursue Greg's point, you honestly thought that, being facetious, a prince would come along?
It's not necessarily about a prince coming along. It's about I was in an unhappy place as a child.
That's horrible. Wasn't that escapism for you?
Yeah, it was very much escapism. And I feel almost bad because I know my mum will be watching this and I don't want to cause upset. But the truth and the reality of it is, I used to read like storybooks, Roald Dahl a lot as escapism. I used to watch Disney movies a lot as escapism. And even now, at the age that I am at, I do still have a small part of me that has this romantic notion, and it is shaped by things like that.
What's wrong with happy ever after? What's wrong with wishing for that? You know, how do kids today reconcile Harry and Meghan? You know, there was a girl who was a restaurant hostess. She couldn't afford to fix her own car at one point. She got a bit of a gig in telly. She's married a prince. So but also, should we tell kids not to read Shakespeare? Because, hey, newsflash, Romeo and Juliet,
no, so what
she kills
I'm
herself
saying,
over a bloke.
So just to be absolutely clear, I completely don't agree with banning Disney movies. I completely do not agree with that.
She's just stopping her daughter. She's not saying ban the film.
No, and no, but I guess what I'm trying to say is there is a part of me, and maybe, and I'd be fascinated on Twitter. I'd be fascinated on Twitter if you're watching this and you do understand what I'm saying. Tweet us and tell us, because there is a part of me that has been shaped by that.
But it goes beyond just Disney, doesn't it? I mean, the truth is, we promote certain... I mean, you go to the average, say, drama school and look at the women in that drama school, and they are disproportionately beautiful.
Yeah. What society can...
Society chooses what it sees as beautiful people, and that's who we promote as being... I mean, I remember when I was London Weekend, the head of drama saying to me, oh, she's a good actress, she doesn't mind playing ugly. Whereas most women didn't want to play ugly. They wanted to play
Can I just
beautiful.
say one quick thing, and then I'll hand straight to you, Carol? I think the point you made there is a really valid point, and it goes back to what I said originally, that if you don't have anything positive to counter a Disney movie, so in your life you came from a traumatic home and you had a very difficult childhood, then the problem is there was no balance. But if you come from a more secure family and you are actually making sure that you're countering that Disney narrative, then it isn't a problem. The other issue, can I just say two other things? The problem I have with Disney films is, number one, that the majority of women in them, or the girls portrayed in them, are scantily clad. That's actually no good. And what's also interesting is, in terms of children's book, there's a statistic, and we can bring it up, from the Observer Nielsen in 2017, which found that out of 100 of the top children's books, the lead characters were 50% more likely to be male.
All right,
so again, we don't have enough of a balance.
Don't miss Nick and Nori next week when we're doing Beauty and the Beast, played by Jin Sub-Hong and Greg Dyke. I'll let you decide who's which.
Oh, what a shame you're a beast.
Anyway, it's now time for a little straight something of the week. So it's no secret that most MPs will do almost anything for publicity. But the honourable member for Lichfield, Michael Fabricant, is hoping that the sight of his honourable member will be enough to encourage people to raise money for a hospice in his constituency.
A naked cycle ride is a good way of raising money. A naked bike ride from Lichfield to Whittington would be a beautiful thing, and would uncover all sorts of parts that I've never seen before. I'm told that naked cycle riding is both healthy and liberating.
Yuck. I feel sorry for the person who had to actually use that bike. For that brazen effort, Mr. Fabricant, you are our straight stripper of the week. I think he has to pay us to see that thing. Anyway, that's all we've got time for this week. But if you want to join the debate, then just search The Pledge on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll see you next time.
Caroline. Carol, right here by the Cosworth Elementary. not too far away.
Item 360, I have one adult female in custody. Stay there, please.
Hennessy, my meter hasn't moved since the very beginning. We're at 13 minutes going back to our house. Signal 4. Tally 335. Can you tally that up for me and see how much it is on the meter?
You just want an update, or here's
Engine 1, medic 9. Engine 1, medic 9. Stopping a patient at North Mesquite and Schatzel. Got one of the haunted units requesting a medic in front of 429 Schatzel. Female patient, possible diabetic. PMS 1, 2059. I don't know where destination was.
Did you want me to put you on the debris in the roadway at call? But we were trying to raise them on TAC 1 in both the main channel and they weren't responding.
Trying to get it up there.
Good morning. In a moment, we'll have another look at dirty business. But first, the top stories this morning. At least 11 people have been shot dead and several more injured after a gunman targeted a synagogue in Pittsburgh. President Donald Trump has called it pure evil. There are fears several people are dead after a helicopter crashed outside the King Power Stadium in Leicester following their Premier League game against West Ham.
Are you advising 37
Sir Philip Green says he'll file a complaint against the Labour peer who outed him as the businessman at the centre of allegations of sexual harassment and racial abuse. First this hour, US President Donald Trump called it pure evil. At least 11 people have been shot dead and several more injured after a gunman targeted a synagogue in Pittsburgh. The shooting took place during a baby naming ceremony, and the FBI has been called in to investigate what's being called a hate crime. Our US correspondent Amanda Walker sent us this report.
Friends and family had gathered to welcome a new life into their community. A baby naming ceremony violently interrupted with devastating consequences. The mass shooting at this synagogue is now being investigated by the FBI as a hate crime.
This is the most horrific crime scene I've seen in 22 years with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Members of the Tree of Life Synagogue, conducting a peaceful service in their place of worship, were brutally murdered by a gunman targeting them simply because of their faith. The suspect's full motive is unknown, but we believe he was acting alone.
The Tree of Life Synagogue serves the Squirrel Hill neighborhood in Pittsburgh, which has one of the largest Jewish populations in Pennsylvania. A local reporter at the scene said survivors described hearing the gunman shout anti-Semitic abuse as he entered the building. Those same reports said he was armed with an assault rifle and 2 pistols, and that he barricaded himself in a room inside. The suspect has been named as 46-year-old Robert Bowers. His social media accounts are now a key focus for investigators. He's being linked to a recent post reading, "Can't sit by and watch my people get slaughtered. Screw your optics."
37 at port is going to be 791.
Anti-Semitism and the widespread persecution of Jews represents one of the ugliest and darkest features of human history.
It's going to be 2331 at 37.
The hate-filled poison of anti-Semitism must be condemned and confronted everywhere and anywhere it appears. There must be no tolerance for anti-Semitism in America or for any form of religious or racial hatred or prejudice.
Trump's critics say he hasn't condemned previous acts of hate strongly enough. After the attempted bombing campaign aimed at high-profile Trump critics, debate is raging over whether inflammatory rhetoric causes violence. Anti-Semitic incidents surged 57% last year. Anger has come to define the politics of a deeply divided nation, just days away from crucial midterm elections. Amanda Walker, Sky News, Washington.
Slowly.
Some other news now, and former England football manager Glenn Hoddle is in hospital after falling ill on his 61st birthday.
I just talked with the inspection. They're going to go check the gap.
And was
on the flanges, and if the gap looks good, then it's looking like we're going to move forward with the torquing.
Well to treatment. Time now for Dirty Business.
This is absolutely astonishing. I never thought we would see this.
536 to 535.
Sitting here doing nothing.
True. It's been here for months already.
Months?
We're working on the wind farm on County Road 67, County Road 12.
People had put this in their recycling bins. They thought it was going to be recycled. And yet it's just stuck in this logjam. What they actually gave you from the UK was a mix of who knows what.
I'm not supposed to getting this. No one wants it.
There was high hopes for this. It was going to be recycled. It was going to have a new life. Now, because it's been shipped like this, it's just landfill fodder.
Yeah, the landfill. No other solution.
We've never consumed so much, and a lot of it is plastic. We produce 20 times more plastic today than we did 50 years ago. I want to find out what happens to it all. Where does it go? And how much of it actually gets recycled?
Is that USSS?
What I discovered was a system that pushes the problem off our shores. The end result? Plastic piling up, and it isn't going away. It all starts here, at home. Like a lot of families, we produce our fair share of waste.
I think we're a bit different when it comes to recycling. I think I'm a good recycler. But what do you think?
I think you don't look at what needs to go in the recycling.
Not in progress. Two-thirds of us admit to being confused about what can and can't be recycled.
So in this one, we've got the plastic, bottles and tins.
Bottles, that's recyclable. Plastic, presumably, that's recyclable.
See, that's you.
What's wrong with that?
It's got food in it.
People talk about washing it, but I'm just not sure whether you need to do that. I just get it, finish with it. As soon as they're finished with it, I just bung it in the bin. Done. This isn't recyclable.
No, that'd be you.
Film, plastic.
No, but that's the outer one, that's the inner one.
So this shouldn't be in that bin. Did you put it in?
Of course not.
But I genuinely do find the whole thing very confusing. And I'm not convinced that it's actually worth doing. So why is it up to me?
Charlie 340, clear, 10-4.
I want to know more, so I'm hitching a ride with the guys who collect my own recycling bin. There are 450 councils with varying collection schemes and differing rules about what can and can't be recycled. If you don't get it right, it won't be collected.
me through whether this is a good bin or not.
Yeah, I'll have a quick look for you. That's looking very good at the moment.
And this is how you want to see it?
That's how we want to see it, yeah.
So the more things are sorted, the easier life is?
It is for us, yes.
Right, we'll carry on then.
That's a very good bin again.
Cardboard,
right. Plastic, bits of cardboard, cartons, everything, that's spot on.
Good.
This is going to get Italian off because we've got cardboard with glass. That's a no-no. So these are going to get Italian off. Putting this label in there.
Can leave it closed. I'm going to line it up. That's for lockout.
What do you like in your recycling then?
Mine's spot on.
So you wash your yoghurt pots out and you sort your glass from your plastic?
Well, my missus does.
Yeah.
Yoghurt pots, baked bean tins, wash out. If not, they're smelling all the time. The bins are.
What's the best aspect of this job?
Knocking off. Knocking off. That's brilliant. Once the last bit go on, you think. All time.
The 5260. Hey, where you at?
The day's collection is my local depot. It's then picked up and hauled off to a sorting plant. And there's lots of it. In just 1 year, British households throw 22 million tonnes of waste into the bin.
671, been round your facility, code 1.
EU targets demand that we recycle half of it by 2020. But rates are stagnating at just 44%.
Be advised, he was discharged from the hospital with vertebral fusion approximately 10 days ago.
I started doing this job in January.
Patient is taking large doses of morphine as needed per day. However, I'm showing marked depression
I'm actually going to a lorry.
To an ABF on his 12 lead. It's been transmitted to you guys already.
We might load up 20 tonnes today.
I do have an IV established for RTA. Administered 4 milligrams of Zofran for nausea, vomiting.
But if you thought all of that plastic ended up being
heart rate is 120. Last blood pressure
all this plastic might get collected, but it doesn't mean it'll get another life.
We know that we used to recycle very little indeed. We know that if you take 10 products, you are recycling probably 40 or 50% of what goes into the marketplace. But we know on other things that we're actually recycling practically nothing.
On a global scale, the numbers are staggering.
78 million tons of plastic packaging get produced every year. And then after very often a very short use, just 14% of the plastic packaging gets collected for recycling, and even less than that, just 2% gets recycled at high quality into new packaging. Then another 14% gets burned after use, another 40% gets landfilled, and a quite staggering 1/3 of all plastic packaging ends up polluting the environment.
I found it astonishing that around the world, only 2% of our plastic packaging gets recycled. I wanted to see what happened with my plastic.
When I was in my kitchen the other day, my children eating their yoghurt pots, as we do a lot.
Right next to that tight spice in that parking lot.
Those yoghurt pots end up here.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Those yoghurt pots end up here, along with about 60,000 tonnes of other people's yoghurt pots during the course of a year.
By the time my recycling's landed here, it's travelled nearly 200 miles and gone through countless hands. It's an industry that employs nearly 20,000 workers.
Yes, I'm at FE10. You want to talk to the controller? F1 to 100.
We
we take in material from people's bins and we turn it back into resources.
By the time the waste that's behind you leaves here, it's actually quite a valuable commodity. Explain what the market is like for plastic.
The market for plastic is fairly volatile, but it's fairly strong. It's all resources. All of this is resources, and I don't want to waste a bit. We want to turn those into the maximum value for the market we possibly can.
It turns out that a lot of our plastic doesn't get processed here. It's exported overseas. And one country has taken more of it than any other: China.
We live in a commercial world. It's no different to any other material. It will go wherever the market demands. It will go to the highest bidder. China has been an important market for the export of plastics from the UK.
China imports 10 million tons of plastic.
You got your ears on?
They don't do it just to give plastic a good home. They do it because they need it to feed the manufacturing process. It's a value commodity. It's a resource that gets used to produce products. It's not a way of disposing of material.
But as China's appetite for plastic scrap increased, a big problem started to develop. Whole villages grew dedicated to sorting through the world's filthy plastic. One man documented what he found.
Yes, it is. And you were the only person I had that could possibly get it.
Roger, I had accepted it, and then I guess you didn't realize.
那么多的垃圾，没有一块垃圾是中国的。所以当时我有一个非常直观的印象，就是中国简直沦为了一个世界的垃圾城，这是我非常大的一个感受。我们整个垃圾的去向，我们有权利知道这个垃圾去了哪儿，它是怎么被。
Alameda heading towards the downtown area.
是否意味着环境友好？
Really looks hurt. We'll have PD around as well. We've got fire dispatch.
即便这块珍贵，它一定会在地球另一个角落上演。
It was a wake-up call for China, who saw this as a big problem they had to deal with. Their reaction would send shockwaves around the world.
Definitely copy.
Over, calm, sir.
Delta 2 said possibly injured leg.
En route to facility code 1 with a 65-year-old male with a tooth complaint of a possible UTI. Patient's daughter is stating that patient has been acting off. Patient does have a history of UTIs. Right now he's CNO times 4, blood pressure 114/76, pulse 80, starting at 97%. Temperature of 99.5 and his glucose is 468. We do have an IV established. We're giving him a fluid bolus right now. We've given him some Tylenol and ETA to your facility is about 2 minutes.
I can have him come down here. I'm not sure where the scalpel goes though.
Heading 12-904. $29.40.
On that, sorry.
But only expired September 2018, address on Johnston.
I'm trying to find out what happens to all our recycling.
Okay, but I only have 2
It's a journey that's taken me thousands of miles
and they won't be able
to the
to
other side
jump
of
the
the world.
island.
Hong Kong
Okay,
is the world's gateway to China.
They're allowed to if there's spots. Okay.
It's through this artery that much of the world's plastic scrap passes on its way to be processed on the mainland. In July 2017, China rocked the recycling world by announcing it would impose tough restrictions on the import of foreign waste. They called it National Sword.
We've become more and more conscious of waste. We've seen a lot more publicity, more and more people know that they want to recycle, and they get very frustrated when they can't, but they don't know where it goes. There's always this assumption that it will be being reprocessed and made into good things in the UK, but frequently it's not. Because it's easier and in many ways cheaper to put it into a container and send it through Hong Kong into China.
It's a decision of let's pass it on to someone else and then don't worry about it.
From a business point of view, you'll say, well, why not? Government equally is moving the problem away. It's still achieving our recycling targets that have been set, but it's maybe it's somebody else's expense.
Correction, the suspect is leaving in a silver station wagon.
Just try and sum up to me what our policy in the UK has been regarding China.
Cheap, easy solution, let's put it in a container in Felixstowe and wave bye-bye. But China is saying, and has been for a little while, why are we receiving your mixed rubbish? All sorts of things have been smuggled in there, been hidden. So they became almost strict under a program called National Sword.
China's message was brutally clear. Any dirty, contaminated plastic would be flatly rejected. The kind of plastic Britain's been sending China for decades.
We export about 60% of the plastic waste that we collect. And of that 2/3 that we export, about a third, 40% of that goes to China. Operation National Sword had a big impact in that it's almost halved the amount of plastic going to China. That's the problem now got China. We're now saying, actually, we don't want this low quality stuff anymore, so we're going to close our doors and you're going to have to find somewhere else.
Finding somewhere else for the plastic is proving very
Put myself
difficult.
ID 1766 on this call.
I've come to meet Tony Wong. He's been trading plastic for 20 years, and he has a lot of it sitting in this yard in Hong Kong. Because China won't take it.
Right, okay. So this is full of varying amounts of plastic.
It is. It's about a value of over $10,000. Right. But now because stuck in here and the market changed because of the importing, maybe $7,000, 30% down.
So stuff that's been
washed
and clean, and this is good stuff for you?
Nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong at all. Look at this.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Even though it's
I'm building number 1 over here.
Yeah.
Clean material.
And I can see you're very passionate about this stuff.
Yeah, well, I see the money. I see the business. To me, not like solid gold, but it's a gold, you know, in here. Yeah.
Who would have thought it?
Yeah. It's very standard kind of items for us.
You just need a country that's willing to take it.
Of course, yes.
And that's the problem.
Yes, to put home for them, to turn back into value.
This is now the world's bottleneck for plastic scrap. Tons of it stuck in limbo. The big question now, where's it all going to go?
Negative, you didn't answer you out.
Meet the man who's made his fortune in recycling. Steve Wong works with Tony to import tens of thousands of tons of plastic through Hong Kong to be processed in
Current
China.
blood pressure was at 122/96. Her heart rate's at 94. She's setting at 98% on a non-rebreather. Finger stick was at 78. She's showing a sinus rhythm at 94. No stop beats on the monitor. We do have IV established. She is on a non-rebreather. ETA will be about 5 minutes.
In China.
So what was the onset of these symptoms?
But China's ban means Steve has to ship his plastic somewhere else. He's looking to neighbouring countries in which to process China's unwanted plastic. He's heading to Thailand, and I'm going with him.
Is it overstating it to say that the survival of your business rests on this surge?
There's no choice, because when the doors shut, you're not allowed to import anything. The only solution is you go out of the country to continue our business.
Over several days, I followed Steve from site to site. He's running out of time to find a place which is capable of dealing with the plastic he wants to recycle.
Sorry, 350 output.
350, 10-4.
It's very, very important that I need to come myself to experience, to feel about it.
Taxi to what's on board.
Are you happy with what you see here?
The big question here is whether Thailand can cope with what China is rejecting. What we saw at one processing plant put all that in doubt. Here we found recycling from the UK, sitting, we were told, for more than a year. Then, more disturbing, biohazard bags. Being melted down to be turned into anything from children's toys to household appliances.
250,
And I'm looking for a place like more decent than this place. The place is quite messy. You see water everywhere. And also the production quite low. You see a lot of broken machines. See workers don't really work professionally.
What struck me was the bags and bags of, non-recyclable waste. Some of it was clearly from the UK that was just going to sit there for however long. Is that a sign of what can get through the system, what can slip through the net?
I think this is why China stopped importing the plastic scrap. Because the exporters, they thought that they can put anything in the container and China can recycle. We also don't want to see same thing
go to 25.
To Thailand.
The ban on importing recycled plastics into China can be a great opportunity for the UK. It forces the UK to rethink how to deal with their plastics post-use. It can also go the bad way, where we would continue exporting the plastics far abroad, where the infrastructure is even worse than in China, and where we perhaps believe it gets recycled because we have collected and sorted and sent it there. But actually, what happens there is it perhaps gets burned or it gets treated in a way that's negative for the local environment.
I wanted to know how Britain would cope if we had to deal with our own plastic instead of sending it abroad. What's going to happen when China closes the door?
Destruction just occurred. It's going to be on Highway 358, the 4500 block of Highway 358 westbound in front of Edwin Watt.
Yeah, I'm about to be there like about 5 seconds.
The so-called travel ban and the Muslim
gunshot and the window shattered. I've been parked on the shoulder.
As the caravan stays in the headline, and it will keep firing up the patrol agents, and as he hits the trail, so very hard.
It's going to be on Highway 358, the 4500 block of... I don't know what that is.
The important case is key here, because that will just like with the travel ban, this will blow up and be a major issue, and that's exactly.
Monitoring on that call and seeing the same person. Please secure the East Gate 1.
Charlie 250 for destruction just occurred. It's going to be on Highway 358, the 4500 block of Highway 358 westbound in front of Edwin Watt.
Those migrants will not be welcome. Now here's what we know. The so-called travel ban and the Muslim
gunshot and the window shattered. I've been parked on the shoulder.
It will keep firing the core patrol agents, and as he hits the trail very hard the next few weeks, he will be talking about this here rally parade. He's tweeting about it. I expect him to do, more media. Secretary talking about this. Every key here, because that will just like with the travel ban, this will blow up and be a major issue, and that's exactly.
We will be making announcements on additional measures that we are looking at within our legal construct to ensure that this is an orderly process and that who have no right to be in our country are able to be apprehended quickly and removed.
To block people from coming in this country.
And
President
Trump orders the National Guard at the U.S.-Mexico border earlier.
A challenge to court because it would potentially violate the Refugee Act from 1980.
The president, though, reiterated his promise to send in the military when he spoke for the White House.
Treaties, and that whole process takes
House on Friday. That's right. One thing that could backfire on the president, yes, it will inevitably fire up his base.
I've spent months investigating what happens to our recycling. Of all the plastic we've been sending abroad all these years, a staggering 60% of exports have been going to one place, China. Problem is, they don't want it anymore. I've come to one of the biggest plastic processors in Britain to find out why we've been sending so much material abroad, and where is this plastic going to go now?
They're not expected PT to be is in the region of £200 a tonne.
The question is,
that's carbonated drinks and water bottles, milk bottles, detergent bottles, they're about £300 a tonne.
To take 23 seats away from
why are you exporting? Why can't we just deal with it here in the UK? The restrictions in the UK is capacity. Historically, there hasn't been a growth that matches the recovery of the materials from the waste management authorities and local authorities.
Maybe even get a one-vote majority.
The capacity doesn't meet the demand. We're not a big island, we've got small amount of mass. Where do we put this material?
Claiming asylum when they reach
I think it's a failure in the system. It's easy to put rather than spend significant amounts of money putting in a processing plant.
So Johnson, his language
or Asia particularly.
Before I was speech in a moment, we do expect that he and his time to because some migrant caravan at one point was about 7,000 people. point in the next week or so.
You
know what?
We will have no idea
offering them to stay in Mexico before they even get here. Do you think he's going to accept?
Actually,
I think all we can expect is the president to
Carlos Leon out of
So we don't have certain sides to deal with all our plastic. But there's another reason we've been pushing our ways to grow.
Certainly members of this caravan is making it to Mexico toward, from what I gather, some
is a government subsidy designed to encourage recycling. Let's take a ton of plastic scrap. A UK recycler processes that plastic, and because of contaminants like labels, glues or liquids, might only get half a ton of recycled plastic from it. They would earn half a subsidy or half a PRN. However, an exporter can take that ton of plastic scrap, contaminants and all, and ship it off to be recycled abroad. That ton of scrap is counted as fully recycled, and the full PRN subsidy is earned. But no checks are made as to how much recycled plastic is actually produced, and so it encourages export.
The PRN system was designed to subsidise the recycler, helping companies invest in more equipment that will recycle more material that will then grow the infrastructure in the UK. But unfortunately, the system was designed that it was weighted towards the exporter. So that whole bale would be eligible for a PRN. Whereas us as a recycler, we're only eligible for one separate
So once it goes in this container, the whole container gets issued with that evidence note.
Correct.
Whereas if you have to deal with it in the UK, it might only be like 40–50% if you're lucky.
Correct.
So the incentive is to bung it in a container and send it away. Still got credit for it, for all of it, rather than deal with it here in the UK.
Correct. We're not getting the full value of that subsidy, whereas the exporter is getting the full value.
He's unloading right now for a business. They're coming to get it right now.
It seemed to me that the ban imposed by China could actually be an opportunity for British business.
These folks are walking.
Javed Mauji set up his own plastic processing business in 2014. He tried to do the right thing by recycling here in the UK.
And you know, it's a hard journey.
How would you describe how British recycling?
To try to block them from entering the country.
What state do you think it is?
It's absolutely terrible. I mean,
they're malnourished, they're dehydrated from even claiming asylum, that they're not safe back in their countries, and it's just a physical part of making this journey. Central American countries, you know, the president does use his language and other countries. He's upfront about that. I've learned covering Central America presidents. So that's what if you listen hard enough, the president could sign
But success was short-lived.
As soon as next week, the president definitely sign this thing before election day. Now, what may happen after that? The better reporters are thinking of the so-called travel ban and the Muslim countries. That was a major court, and again, he's going to keep hammering this and hammering this next few weeks. And by doing that, by kick-starting this before election, the president ensured.
What's in the speech? We expect a major speech.
We as a UK company, we will get a PRN on...
We'll keep firing up the base, and it's...
So if you export plastic bottles on the record.
Hits the trail very hard for the next few weeks. Thank you. We will be talking about this.
Will Vice President Pence travel to Arizona to support Senate candidate Martha McSally, who is currently locked in a tight race with her Democratic challenger, Congresswoman Kirsten Sinema and Alina Coordination. Plus, President Trump is in Southern Illinois right now. A live shot for you, firing up Republican voters in the
this will be a major issue. And that's exactly what he wants.
the midterms. More of the president's latest
he wants to
campaign
use
stuff
immigration to fire up debate.
That could happen after the election. I mean,
Bravo 410, I'm going to check in front of number second one.
that's the point. If he has emergency actions to block people from coming in this country.
Come with us.
We're actually undermining the competitiveness of our own domestic plastic.
And even seeking asylum, because under the law, if you get your foot in this country, you can legally.
Deeper than the ocean. As uncrowded as the
If he
universe.
stops that, you know, that isn't
A world that doesn't exist outside you, but within you.
Because it would potentially violate the
Where
Refugee
breakthrough
Act
science is
1980,
replacing
The
chemotherapy.
disadvantage for our domestic reprocessors vis-a-vis those
715 individual.
And
We can now attack the causes.
That's right. And
don't know.
Yes, just to let you know, my agenda says card missed it doesn't want to give out the transfer.
Are now designed to fit you. Today,
fire up his base and the Republican base, but it will also fire up
at home.
3,000 firefighters with no central go boldly
and
to
this
discover
election
treatments and
is
cures.
going to be all about
10 years ago, on the verge of more tomorrow.
key districts and key battleground states. And by doing this,
where it's gone.
This is where it's going to go.
It's really the only play the president has here. But it wants to fire up Democrats.
Ship from the UK in containers.
Numbers in the places that are going to matter. The Democrats need about 53 seats away from the Republicans to take the House, and Democrats are still hopeful
I haven't go to the site to look at the material.
that they have an outside shot, maybe
New 2019 Infiniti QX50.
maybe even get a one-vote majority. So the president is
Nothing traditional
you know, he's playing with fire here by doing this, but it's really
No one willing to handle it.
This is the number one issue for debate for his base, and it's all about the base legislation. No one wants it.
Sit down there in about 5 minutes.
And finally, just a minute left. Some say his language is working.
It was an extraordinary sight.
It's tough talk because the migrant caravan only about 7,000
Just like the system in
Mexican
Korea.
authorities say it's reduced to like 3,000 to 4,000.
Mexico was offering. What's in your
It's on the floor, starts the upper part, the first
offering them to stay in Mexico before they even get here. Do you think he's been a success in that?
Then we found bags from Chelmsford Council in Essex.
Decided to stop providing our
I think you also have to look at road trips every Saturday. These folks are walking. Some of them are older from what I.
He said, switch to dish. You get every major D1 football game.
There's someone trudging.
Hello, I'm Karen Cole with your showbiz news. Caitlyn Jenner has admitted her regrets over supporting directly
to North America, to the United States.
The LGBT community. The 68-year-old had been a prominent backer of Mr. Trump during the 2016 presidential campaign, but she has now following a US government memo proposing fundamental changes to the way gender is defined. An unreleased report from the US Department of Health and Human Services
How many of us really understand he's upfront about that if you listen to them, they tell you what they're doing. They tell you they're communicating with each other. The internet is no longer a therapeutic display about this, and the president does use the tough talk as a deterrent. I think, you know, the better barometer here is probably going to be what happens on election. Things that know us. Each device, and again, he's going to keep hammering this and hammering this the next few weeks.
All right.
took in March 2019 and City in June.
Join me to the groundbreaking curiosity. What's in the speech? We expect a major speech
where we'll explore the many mind-blowing technologies it spawned. First since 2017's Dangerous Woman Tour, which was interrupted
and reveal the stunning impacts they're likely to have on us all. That expected.
Thank you.
Eric, thank you. Well, Vice President.
Imagine being able to do whatever you want to do.
President Pence traveling to Arizona to support Senate candidate Martha McSally, who is currently locked in a tight race with her Democratic challenger, Congresswoman Kirsten.
43418 Airline.
Cinema, a look ahead at that election. Plus, President Trump is in southern Illinois right now. A live shot for you, firing up the Republican voters in the run-up to
Sandals, more quality inclusions than
midterms. More of the president's latest campaign stuff that is
results on the planet. Save up to 65%. Call 1-800-SAND.
Charles, Adam Union, Lincoln, Edward Young, first name Cassidy. 102201, 102201, Wycombe, Aura.
Hundreds of tons of plastic
Republican voters this week in Arizona urging them to cast a ballot for Congresswoman Martha McSally. Now she's currently in a close contest with the Democratic candidate in Senate.
Deeper than the ocean.
To become Arizona's first female senator.
As the universe
is live in Phoenix.
We found household recycling.
A world that doesn't exist outside.
So with more of the Grand Canyon State's Senate race and Vice President
chemotherapy.
That was hit by a vehicle. He picked that up. He got hit the motorcycle. It's going to be a blue Cherokee. Call is still being updated.
Per week. Because policy is only something that people that they put a lot of trust in the people that way, obviously. Borders is here in this weekend. The president's promise to make this the election of the caravan. He insisted that loopholes in immigration policy he thinks keep
started this morning when he got
changes to the laws in the last 2 years. What's the pitch
the blood pressure 178 over 64, heart rate 130 regular, respiration about 18 unlabored, 97 unclear, RAVs of 143, having a temperature point of 4, IV with no luck, over facility in about 3 minutes 26 seconds. Repeat everything you just said. I didn't understand the word.
Steps to, whatever steps are needed.
And let's hope that we've got the Infinity QX squad and military technology to turn
weakness associated with the fever. Have a blood pressure 178, 84, heart rate 130, liberation 16, unlabored 97%, room air, glucose 143. Get to facility about 3 minutes and 8 seconds.
Immigration for them.
The all-new 2019 Infinity QX.
The Democratic candidate here, Congresswoman Kirsten Sinema, is focusing almost exclusively on tweeted this a while ago. Last year, Congress voted on health care bills that weaken
on plastic packaging to take a look.
Crowds who have voted no, Martha McSally voted yes, hashtag Arizona Senate. But I just talked to McSally, who told me that's not true.
Thrown a bile 5 or 6 times today and has a slight headache. Upon waking this morning, spouse states that he did have a slight blurred. They checked his blood pressure at approximately noon and had a systolic over 200. At this time, when he's got current vitals of 12 over 122, heart rate of 89. Currently setting 100% on high flow 2. We have established an average blood sugar of 235. 1 to 2 minutes.
Saver card. Earn 4% cash back on dining and 4% on entertainment.
This race is as close as they come to real. That's what all of our by 0.7 points. Eric.
All right, see what happens.
I think it was a great idea to stop.
Our old TV provider decided
to... like it's inevitable destinations, a landfill. So.
Series epic game 3 that took that discount.
He said, Animal Control 95, pick up a 41 at the 3100, block of Baldwin intersection, for solid waste.
Another round tonight.
These are where is that call coming from?
Stay home and get every major D1 game tuned into you.
As if that wasn't bad enough. Your insurance will replace no. I'm Derek Schwartz. Internet exchange. Now the internet
right here.
We'll unravel.
Taking your money if you want to rent it.
Cardboard in it, and it's being stored.
With new car replacement, if your brand new car gets totaled, Liberty Mutual will pay the entire value from the UK.
Can earn a packaging recovery note, or PRN. That's the evidence note to say something's
plus
being
depreciation.
Recycled.
Liberty Mutual.
All these vegetables to trap.
Now it's a network.
And load these packages.
Package recovery note system for exporters.
Things that know.
For times like these,
each device we connect to the internet becomes part of it. Join me for the groundbreaking Curiosity Series where we'll explore.
It looks like in some cases it's
right here.
I think the system's got that inherent risk in it. When things are transported across countries, across boundaries, it's very difficult to keep track of them. The amount of, and I'll call it pure waste, that is lying on the ground, the films that have degraded, the carrier bags that are flaking into nothing. And it's highly unlikely those are going to be recycled. So effectively, they've been brought here to be landfilled, to be disposed of.
We found more evidence of plastic from Britain.
Delta 3, Delta 320 is requesting medic to CDC. His 12 has a cut on the wrist and is needing to be bandaged up. Delta 370, go ahead.
Chelmsford Council again to tell them we'd seen more of their recycling in Poland. After looking into it, Chelmsford confirmed that the plastic we'd found in Hong Kong and Poland had gone through companies accredited as reprocessors and exporters of packaging waste from the Environment Agency. They said they remain confident their approach has the least environmental impact of all recycling practices. The reason why Britain has been sending so much plastic overseas is that the PRN system actively encouraged it. Among those who are critical of the scheme is the man who came up with the idea in the first place, former Environment Minister John Gummer, now Lord Deben.
There are several problems with it. First of all, I don't think we have sufficient control over where it goes. Secondly, I don't think we have sufficient control over the quality of what is in there. In other words, you can have mixed up in that material things that are not going to be recycled. And the third thing, China is now from the 1st of January not to accept it. I think we ought to be recycling it here and in the rest of Europe.
But the problem is, as you well know, is that the problem with the PRN system is it incentivizes export.
It does. In certain circumstances, not all, but most circumstances, you are incentivized to export it. That's nonsense. It shouldn't happen, and we should change it.
In 2015, DEFRA commissioned a series of independent briefing notes looking at the PRN scheme. We've obtained them. They raised concerns about the system. The briefing notes warned that competition is insufficient and there's a lack of transparency, and that local councils saw little if any benefit from the money raised. The system was seen to favour export, with low-quality waste providing a cheap disposal route for contaminants. And worryingly, the paper's repeated concerns that the PRN scheme doesn't work to encourage investment in the UK reprocessing industry. But these briefing notes were not made public.
First name's going to be Latavian, Lincoln, Adam, Tom, Adam, Young, Victor, Ida, Adam, 110900.
In June, Michael Gove was appointed Environment Secretary and walked straight into the crisis. A month later, China said they'd ban imports at the start of 2018. A committee of MPs wanted to know what the new Environment Secretary was going to do about it.
China has notified the WTO that stopping plastic waste What impact do you think this will have on waste?
The country's police. I don't know.
It's a very good question. And something to which I'll be completely honest, I've not given some thought. She won't even look at me. She owes me $48 and some few cents.
I want to firstly just go back to November to that Environmental Audit Committee, where they were talking about the impact of China was intending to impose on plastic imports. And you'll remember you said that you hadn't given it much thought. Given that British business, British processors believe that this is huge, do you regret that?
Yes, it's a significant issue. I hadn't given it enough thought. But what we're doing now is everything we can in order to ensure that we turn what is a challenge into an opportunity. We've been exporting too much waste. What we need to do is to make sure that we reduce the amount that we produce and also process more of it at home.
Do you think that we have the capacity now to deal with the plastic that would have otherwise gone to China?
Naturally, the fact that China is going to close its doors to a significant amount of that plastic puts an additional challenge on us here in the UK.
I want to talk about capacity because I want to spend the next minute of this interview just showing you some footage that we filmed in Poland and in Hong Kong. It shows tens of thousands of tons of plastic on yards that has been abandoned.
Pistorius Eddies, 4810 Pistorius at Eddies.
These are mixed waste bales.
Housing Authority appears ban requesting copy.
All mixed together. It looks like they're from the UK. They shouldn't be exported.
What's your view about what you just said?
Well, it reinforces the case for the reforms that I've already explained that we plan to implement. The PRN scheme at the moment, while it has significantly improved recycling rates, and recycling rates have grown over the course of the last 20 years, it's still not good enough.
Then the government revealed its long-awaited 25-year plan for the environment. In that plan, the government provided no details of any proposed changes to the PRN scheme.
We're probably deluding ourselves. We think we have a system that's better than it is. And actually, if it isn't a very good system, well, we should improve it.
Recycling should be modern and close to home, but it must be recognised that helping the environment does come at a cost. The cheap way is let's dump it somewhere else.
I don't think we're planning quick enough, and I think it needs investment, I think it needs government support, and I think we need facilities such as these to accept that volume of material. We have to look at reprocessing it domestically. It's our waste, our problem, we should be recycling it.
When I first started this journey, I had no idea where our recycling ended up. But I found it, scattered thousands of miles across the globe, abandoned in yards from Eastern Europe to Asia, out of sight, out of mind. What I learned was that until we as a nation take responsibility for what we put in our bins, create a system we can trust, this problem's going to pile up, and we can't afford to ignore it.
Private Special Medic 11.
Secure lower inner 4.
Status Mike Tobin. The country's police now trying
to
Mexico.
10-4.
Branch on that PDT 15.
He will never get a Supreme Court justice. I got that. He will never get tax cuts. I got that.
3104.
He will never cut regulations. I cut more regulations than anybody in that.
Sir, by the ticket booth. Over here on the east side.
What did they tell you?
I don't know. I got here with that. I got return on
Yeah, I think it's to the mesquite door.
7-1 to dispatch.
Alright, well, you want to double check for me with Brandon?
They wanted in their whole life that they never would have gotten. I got it.
Adam 350 on the way.
Yes, ma'am. Carol asked that you bring down a remote for the gate when you come down. You're coming down, right?
No, but there's fake. And honestly, there's fake on our side also. Oh, I don't even know if they are. But I could name the names. I just don't want to get in.
You can cancel with the exception of engine 3 and rescue 3.
No, whenever he says he needs 30, he's going to be the one at the front door.
Site 45 to site 1. Mobile.
So we have the greatest conservative agenda ever, but I don't view it that way. So you're a great conservative.
Go electrician off with
You built this country.
West Plant I&E. Site 45 to gang unit.
Hard to believe, and frankly, something that is unimaginable.
The gunman is in custody over the hate crime. Authorities in Pittsburgh say this is one of the worst scenes they've ever come across.
Just want to bring up the speed. I don't know if y'all are aware.
Fears that several people have been killed in a helicopter crash outside Leicester's King Power Stadium.
Over here, walking around in colors.
Can you go away?
Okay, we stopped 6 heading that way. Earlier, the captain did.
Also this morning, tracked down but not backing down. So Philip Green takes on his accuser.
Calaveras are hanging together.
And the government's a £1 billion plan to help small businesses on the
direction. What time is that thing on till?
Good morning. Federal prosecutors in the US have charged the suspected gunman in a massacre that killed 11 people and wounded 6 others.
I appreciate it, Ramos. They're just got a big huddle right now. It's broke up. Tempo. Danger, we're going to head over there. Plate's going to be David Mary 7220.
Of the shooting. Our US correspondent Amanda Walker reports.
Friends and family had gathered to welcome a new life into their community. A baby naming ceremony violently interrupted with devastating consequences. The mass shooting at this synagogue is now being investigated by the FBI as a hate crime.
This is the most horrific crime scene I've seen in 22 years with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Members of the Tree of Life Synagogue, conducting peaceful service in the place of worship, were brutally murdered by a gunman targeting them simply because of their faith. The suspect's full motive is unknown, but we believe he was acting alone.
The Tree of Life Synagogue serves the Squirrel Hill neighborhood in Pittsburgh, which has one of the largest Jewish populations in Pennsylvania. A local reporter at the scene said survivors described hearing the gunman shout anti-Semitic abuse as he entered the building. Those same reports said he was armed with an assault rifle and 2 pistols, and that he barricaded himself in a room inside. The suspect has been named as 46-year-old Robert Bowers. His social media accounts are now a key focus for investigators. He's being linked to a recent post reading, "Can't sit by and watch my people get slaughtered. Screw your optics, I'm going in."
Anti-Semitism and the widespread persecution of Jews represents one of the ugliest and darkest features of human history. The vile, hate-filled poison of anti-Semitism must be condemned and confronted everywhere and anywhere it appears. There must be no tolerance for anti-Semitism in America or for any form of religious or racial hatred or prejudice.
Trump's critics say he hasn't condemned previous acts of hate strongly enough. After the attempted bombing campaign aimed at high-profile Trump critics, debate is raging over whether inflammatory rhetoric causes violence. Anti-Semitic incidents surged 57% last year. Anger has come to define the politics of a deeply divided nation, just days away from crucial midterm elections. Amanda Walker, Sky News, Washington.
Now, a helicopter belonging to the owner of Leicester City Football Club has burst into flames after crashing into the team's stadium car park. It was leaving the ground after the side's Premier League match against West Ham. It's not clear if Chairman Vijay Srivadhanaprabha was on board. Sky's Tom Parmenter has the latest now from the scene.
Well, there is great concern in Leicester tonight. Fans still outside the King Power Stadium waiting for news, waiting for confirmation from the emergency services as to exactly what they are dealing with. But everyone has seen those horrific images of the fireball that followed the helicopter crash in the car park just outside the ground here. It was after the game against West Ham United. It's a very familiar drill to fans of Leicester City to see their owner from this Thai family come in to arrive at the stadium before a game in the centre circle via a helicopter, and then for that helicopter to come back at the end of the game, land in the centre circle and take off again. Departure after this game against West Ham United that the helicopter seemed to lose power. It spiralled and crashed into the corner of one of the car parks here. There were police officers on the scene very quickly indeed. They got fire extinguishers from their police vehicles to try to do what they could, but it was very obviously a very serious situation. This is what one of the witnesses told us afterwards.
We were just in the bar facing the King Power, lots of fire engines. As we came out, my nephew had been running up the street. He was in a real state of shock. Said he seen this helicopter spiralling out of control, dropped within a second and just burst into flame. He was so upset. We're all thinking of the owners, what they've done for us here, but it's terrible news for us.
It is an extraordinary story over the last few years here at Leicester City, of course. That Premier League winning season just a couple of years ago that exceeded every fan's expectation. There were 5,000 to 1 shots to win the Premier League that year. They did it with the guidance and brilliance of the team, the manager, and also the Thai owners. And grave concerns here in Leicester tonight. Let's bring in Gags, one of the Leicester City fans. Gags, what are your thoughts tonight? This is deeply concerning, isn't it?
So nothing's confirmed right now.
What you got up there, press?
Huge contrast, isn't it, between a couple of years ago winning the Premier League and such a dreadful night here tonight.
So as you can see, so many people are here today. So many people were here in May when Leicester City won the Premier League.
A couple of years back.
It was a couple of years ago, but it was such an amazing achievement, and it's just so sad to think that within 2 years that has happened. It's just such a shock.
And it's such a regular sight, the helicopter coming in and out of the stadium, isn't it?
Every game, the owners come up and down, go back to Thailand, and Vijay and his family were the most incredible owners. I say was, but we don't know because nothing is confirmed yet. But they were the most incredible owners that any club could hope for. Because you see owners of English teams, English owners that never go to any games, but Vijay and his son and his team and his family were here every game, just making the impossible possible.
Not really still on that player. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Thanks for joining us on Sky News. As I say, a city really holding its breath, waiting for details from the emergency services as to precisely what they're dealing with. There were frantic efforts in the moments after the crash to try to rescue people to see what had happened and whether anyone in the car park had been hurt, but as yet we are still awaiting official confirmation of what has happened. Of course, the fear is that people may have died, but at this stage we just don't know, and the city really waiting for that news. The city mayor saying that his thoughts and prayers are very much with this, the family of the owners. It was his helicopter, and it was a fairly regular thing, although it wasn't always the same helicopter that was used to transfer him in and out of the stadium. Something went very badly wrong here tonight, and investigating that will inevitably take some time.
Tom Parmenter reporting there, and a latest statement to bring you from Leicestershire Police. The Air Accident Investigation Branch will now be leading their inquiries into the circumstances of the helicopter crash at the King Power Stadium. So cordons currently in place around the scene to enable them to examine the area and complete their initial inquiries. More on that story as we get it here on Sky News. Now, the businessman, Sir Philip Green, was accused of a malevolent diversion by the Lord. He says he'll report to the parliamentary authorities. Lord Haynes said he stood by his decision to name the top shop owner as the subject of allegations of sexual harassment and racial abuse. Sir Philip denies those claims, but he had little else to say when tracked down by Sky News. Our US correspondent Greg Milam was the first to find him in Tucson, Arizona, in the United States.
This is where Sir Philip Green usually comes for the good of his health.
You need to leave. Never again.
Go away. So, Philip, what do you think about Lord Haynes and what he did in Parliament this week?
We heard
this is the first time the billionaire has been seen in public
this morning
since allegations
as well. He also talked
this
about
week.
gun laws earlier today, saying that
Will
that's
you
not the
respond to
issue
those
here, but that an armed security guard in the synagogue might have prevented so many deaths. The president almost canceled this rally, but said he decided not to because it's important to not allow people to dictate your life. He also said the midterms are too important. He covered a range of topics, everything from NAFTA to immigration, talking about steel, jobs, and specifically talking about the man he was here campaigning for, the incumbent Republican in the House from this district.
You're trying to run me over, Sir Philip?
No,
go away. 0780
Tone is very important.
5 is -29.
He did then reverse and told us quite calmly that for legal reasons he couldn't comment even if he wanted to. Declined to say that on camera.
These people.
He is thousands of miles from Westminster, where the former Labour Minister Lord Hayne used parliamentary privilege to identify him.
I feel it's my duty under parliamentary privilege to name Philip Green as the individual in question.
In connection with the Daily Telegraph's claims that an unnamed businessman had been granted an injunction preventing them from reporting allegations of sexual harassment and abuse of staff.
Like this one, he's hoping that his presence in some of these places can help tip the scales in these tight races and help Republicans win across the board
failing to
in November.
disclose a financial relationship with Gordon
Murfreesboro,
Dance,
Illinois. Thank you.
Telegraph's lawyers. In a statement,
we are learning more about the Florida man who's accused of sending more than a dozen pipe bomb packages to prominent Democrats, including former President Obama and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. A single fingerprint leading investigators to arrest 56-year-old Cesar Sale.
On what basis was
Phil
he
Keating,
apparently
live in Miami with the latest on that case. What is next for him?
On the front page.
Hi, John. First, what is happening right now? And that is sitting in a small prison cell. The politically hyper-postal pipe bomb suspect is up in that building behind me, the tall gray one. That is downtown Miami's federal detention center. What is next is 56-year-old Cesar Sale will likely remain behind bars for a very long time. Doubtful he can even make bail. That is, if bail is even
clear when Philip will leave the Arizona
He's undoubtedly
Sun
meeting
and
with his
return to
attorney
the UK.
this weekend, as Monday he will have his first appearance in federal
there,
court
too.
in front of federal magistrate Edwin
Tucson,
Torres.
Arizona.
He's facing 5 federal counts for allegedly
Now,
mailing
ahead
13
of budget this Monday, we've been given the first indication of what's coming. A £1.5 billion plan aimed at saving the UK's struggling high streets. Chancellor Philip Hammond is giving £500,000 smaller retailers tax relief. There's no word if there'll be any help for large department stores employing the majority of workers in the sector.
An attorney who wants
Skies
more
are sharp
jail
at
back in his long list of criminal history
Closure after closure
expects the
after
feds to bring
closure.
down the hammer
It's the
in
bleak
this case.
picture on this high
Street in Slough and one replicated up and down the country.
This is not you could come to the high street on a Saturday, busy, buzzing.
So I would think they're going to come after him in every jurisdiction. There's no way he's going to get a bond.
All it is now is sort of pound shops and
while there are
places
so
closing
many
down.
Florida connections to this case,
sad, really,
for example, all of the pipe bombs were allegedly
the high
made
street,
in
the government would
Broward
announce
County.
a $1.5 billion the proposals would see a third shave off business rates almost half a million businesses. This would mean a pub in Sheffield rated value around £38,000 will save more than £6,000 on business rates, or a newsagent in Birmingham with a rated value of £14,000 stands to save around £1,700.
But a suspect is under arrest in that case.
At this barbershop, they're trying to buck the spiralling downward
The pipe bomb
trend,
threats have taken
only
center
recently
stage in the
opening their
midterm
doors.
elections, with
But
politicians
business rates
on
are
both
already a
sides
big
calling for the
burden,
end
so
of
any
divisive
support is
politics.
welcome.
Doug McKelway.
We've got houses to rent houses, we've got rent here.
The arrest of diehard Trump supporters in the pipe bomb mailings has thrown a wrench into the midterms, diverting attention from other October surprises such as the Kavanaugh hearings, the caravan, and yesterday's report of 3.5% economic growth. Across the spectrum,
while the government is providing relief to small
the
businesses, there's criticism
they're also
this doesn't
doing it
help
while
larger
trying to
firms.
inspire their base just more than a week away from the most consequential midterm election in years.
Everyone will benefit if we can end the politics of personal destruction.
The majority of retail workers and which attract the most.
We must unify as a nation in peace, love, and in harmony.
And there's another issue harming the high street, and that's the change in shopping habits.
Immediately after those boos, the crowd erupted in a chant of CNN sucks, to which the president replied, they do, indeed. And at a rally in Hartford, Connecticut, former Vice President Joe Biden made a similar appeal for calm.
This division that exists in our high streets and town centres up and down the country is reduce some of the costs
former President
that relate
Obama, who in an earlier campaign advised his supporters to bring a gun to a knife fight,
much needed
told
short-term
Democrats in
relief
Milwaukee
to the
that
high street.
Republicans are exploiting
Critics say
racial
much
and
more
ethnic
needs to be
divisions.
done
They'll say
to save
whatever
it.
it takes
Charlotte Lomas, Sky
to
News.
keep their stuff.
And we have an update now on Sky News' campaign to make the leader debates a regular feature of elections and for an independent commission to oversee them. As you can see from here, the petition has passed 50,000 signatures. That means it's halfway to the all-important 100,000 signatures mark, which would mean Parliament will have to consider the subject for debate. If you want to join the campaign, you can do so by going to skynews.com/makedebateshappen and support the campaign by using the hashtag #MakeDebatesHappen.
And who knows what other October or November.
Oh, in Dublin, Michael D. Higgins has been re-elected as Irish president for a second term. The 77-year-old received more than 55% of the vote in an election that has reportedly seen a low turnout. With more than 822,000 votes, Ireland's Prime Minister Leo Varadkar congratulated him on what he called a landslide victory. Our Ireland correspondent Stephen Murphy reports.
Satirist. He's also Jewish. He joins us with his tale. Plus, a fiery crash at a soccer game just seconds after a helicopter takes
Michael
off
D.
from
Higgins
center
is
field.
declared the President of Ireland for a second term. The incumbent saw off his rivals with ease, claiming a total of 56% of the vote.
Until this happens, I'm in charge, and all the plugs are taken, and
for those who voted for me and those who did
why
not.
have a remote control for your
Because
phone?
I am so proud of our
That's
country.
why. And he is a terrorist. Yes.
In truth, this contest was over as soon as it began. None of the 5 other candidates seemed capable of eroding the president's commanding lead in the opinion polls. Businessman and independent candidate Peter Casey was a surprise package, finishing in second place. He had been described by some as a Trumpian candidate after a series of controversial comments.
Some people are describing it as a protest vote. Would you go along with that?
I think it's a frustration. People speak a language. People are really just tired. They're tired of nonsense government.
Ireland was also voting in a referendum on whether to delete blasphemy as an offence. Although that result has yet to be officially confirmed, exit polls suggest a substantial vote in favour. It follows on from a series of socially progressive referendum results but as no one has ever been charged under the blasphemy law, this debate failed to capture the public imagination.
Plaque psoriasis can be relentless. Tremfya is for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. With Tremfya, you can get clearer and stay clear. In fact, patients who saw 90% clear skin at 28 weeks stayed clearer through 48 weeks. Tremfya
Ireland may want to see the end of its blasphemy law, but it voted overwhelmingly to keep
Tremfya may lower your ability to fight infections and may increase your risk of infections. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and
France and Germany are calling on Europe to deliver coordinated sanctions against Saudi Arabia in response to the killing of
before starting Tremfya, tell your doctor if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Earlier, the Saudi foreign minister called criticism of this country hysterical and said those responsible would be prosecuted. World leaders are discussing the issue on the sidelines of a conference in Istanbul. Sky's defence correspondent Alistair Bunkle sent this report.
It's hard to think of anything these four leaders all agree on. Erdogan, Putin, Merkel and Macron met in Istanbul to talk about Syria. The killing of Jamal Khashoggi is the Middle East's biggest diplomatic crisis right
New
now.
episode tomorrow at 9 on Nat Geo Wild.
Regarding the deceased Jamal Khashoggi, we talked about this matter during bilateral talks and informed them. Our intelligence agencies had already held various meetings on this matter.
How do you feel
and today
when
we have
someone
given
is
the
looking over
details
your
during
shoulder?
bilateral meetings.
Not all snoopers can be
Germany's
seen.
response has been the strongest.
Cyber criminals can steal your
Chancellor
sensitive
Merkel
information.
suspended arms
Hackers
sales
can
to Saudi
intercept your
Arabia,
data on public
and she wants
Wi-Fi.
others to do the same.
But not with the NordVPN app. It helps protect your privacy by encrypting your online data, and it's so easy to use.
I've also made clear that we in Germany, especially with regards to the war in Yemen,
and enjoy
have made arrangements for a very
and
restrictive
privacy.
and prohibitive policy around weapons exports to Saudi Arabia.
This is my French have been more cautious.
These are
Turkey
my backroads.
is at the center of the storm.
Those are my heroes.
And as for the Russians, well, if
That
anything,
was my
they
high school.
appear to be supporting Saudi
And this
Arabia.
is my
On
privilege.
Friday, Turkey submitted
Since
a formal
2005,
extradition
DISH and our
request
partners have
for the
helped bring
18
emergency
arrested
communications
Saudis.
access
It
to
seems
disaster
unlikely
areas
that will
across the
happen.
country. So families,
There's been
friends,
this
and first
hysteria
responders
in
can
the media
organize, mobilize,
about
and
Saudi
connect.
Arabia's guilt before the investigation is completed.
Authorities
We will
say a
investigate.
steam leak at a
We will
Washington
share the
State
results of
nuclear
the
site did
investigation.
not release
We will hold
radiation
people to account.
into the air. The scare happened Friday at the Hanford Nuclear Reservation. It forced workers to stay inside for about 5 hours. No reports of injuries. The leak came from a tunnel where nuclear waste is stored inside old railroad cars. The Hanford site was created during World War II.
In the coming days, the audio
We're
recording
learning more about the suspected gunman who killed at least 11 people in a Pittsburgh
this story
synagogue this morning.
will enter a new
46-year-old
dimension
Robert Bowers
more
is
important
described as a
pressure on
virulent
Saudi Arabia.
anti-Semite. The Justice Department has announced plans to file federal hate crime charges. Let's bring in Jamie Weinstein, the host of the Jamie Weinstein Show podcast at the National Review Online and founding partner at JMW. Jamie, you've heard the president blamed for this kind of thing because of the political rhetoric that he sometimes releases.
It was England's cricket hero in Sri
Do
Lanka.
you ascribe any of the blame for this attack to the president?
Well, I don't think the first thing people should do in the midst of a tragedy like this is political recriminations. No, I don't think the president bears responsibility for the attack. The anti-Semite attacker actually was anti-Trump. He thought he was part of this global anti-Semitic conspiracy or conspiracy of Jews. That said, I do think if you look at the rhetoric at this current moment, you see a problem there where it can inflame political nationalisms and anti-Semites. And the president doesn't bear sole responsibility for that, but he is the president. He bears significant responsibility with kind of the toxic language he uses in this environment. And as president, he has a unique responsibility to bring this country together. So I do think that he can do more to lower the volume in this country, in this political environment, and try to unify this deeply divided country.
And there has been plenty of the divisiveness coming from both sides.
There's no question divisiveness from both sides. But again, he's president of the United States and holds unique responsibility here. And I would give him a piece of advice. What if he did, he's doing a lot of campaign rallies over the next week or so, leading up to the midterms. What if two of them, one was a a religious unity rally where he locked hands with the Jewish community and said, if you're an enemy of the Jewish people, you're an enemy of me and my movement. And maybe a political unity rally where he brought together all of those people who got those attempted bombs, George Soros and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, and they talked about American values, and while they disagree, they stand here united for a lot of the values that this country was founded on. I think that would go a long way to lowering the volume in this country. I'm not sure he's necessarily capable of it. He's a fighter, and he's not necessarily someone who's naturally drawn to kind of unifying language, but I think it would be awfully important and awfully historic, and I would encourage him to consider something like that. It would do great things for this country if we saw an image like that over the next couple weeks.
But I also have to wonder whether Hillary Clinton and George Soros would agree to appear on the same stage as the sitting president.
You know, you might wonder that, but
you want to build a
president of the United States, and in this environment, perhaps they would. Perhaps they would if the setting was right and the atmosphere was right. And they were there to not talk about divisive politics, put their political views aside, and talk about what unifies us as Americans.
From Sky Sports News.
I think that would be very powerful.
I don't know whether you were able to hear what the president had to say when he took the stage at that rally in Murfreesboro, Illinois, but he said, you know, even though he and the White House had thought about canceling that Make America Great Again rally, he decided to go forward with it. He said, we can't make these demented, evil people important. And when we start changing around our lives and schedules, we change all of our lives in order to accommodate them. It's not acceptable. What do you think about that?
Well, it reminds me a little bit of what George W. Bush said after 9/11. Don't allow these evildoers to win by changing the way you live. But he went on to say, and I thought it was the strongest language I've heard him in condemning these type of attacks. And I thought it was quite good. I'd like to hear more of that. I'd like to hear the volume toned down from him. Stop attacking the media as the enemy of the people. Stop, praising a congressman or joking about praising a congressman who body slammed a reporter. Make your political views, but make the rhetoric in line with kind of the moment. Don't increase and inflame tensions unnecessarily.
He also had kudos for law enforcement, and by all accounts, local police and SWAT teams in Pittsburgh did a spectacular job today of keeping this thing from, as bad as it was, they kept it from getting worse.
It was
and
that's
everything I've read suggests that's right.
Really enjoyed the race.
We should be
Not where I wanted to finish, but I really enjoyed
to make
the race,
situation maybe a little
getting
bit
to be in a battle
with
these cars, with these guys was awesome.
But
it's actually what I dream of. I think people watching TV want to see that more often. But the way these cars are designed, even though they're great on their own, we should be able to follow closer than we are and be in the train and maybe even be dicing between each other. But you don't see that enough in this series because the tires weren't too happy today, and also with the aero difference that you need per track.
I hope the language
they've got to do a better job with the design for 2021, that you don't need a second advantage to follow or get close to another car. Well, it's usually a second and a half or something like that. So if they can design something in the wind tunnel, which I'm sure they can, that means you only need 3/10 3/10 slots when you're behind the car, and then you're going to see some great racing.
It's kind of a unique position. In England, you have the Prime Minister who's the head of a political party, and it's a case of ceremonially the Queen is the head of the state. The president shares both of those responsibilities here in the United States, and he bears a unique responsibility to try to unify the country. So it really is the onus on him to start with him, and he needs to
Liverpool
do that.
are level on points with City at the top, but behind on goal difference. Mohamed Salah's first goal in 5 games sealed a 1-0 win over struggling Huddersfield.
Homeland Security Secretary Kirsten
Chelsea's Ross Barkley scored an injury-time equaliser to deny Manchester United and Jose Mourinho's victory at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea assistant Marco Ianni ran across Mourinho while celebrating, angering the United manager who got involved in scuffles on the sidelines and in the tunnel. Ianni later apologised.
This is something we often do. We feel that the best way to help communities support their efforts in terms of protection is to get people on the ground, to listen to them, to understand their needs.
Matches, and I will make more.
You can catch the entire interview with Secretary Nielsen tomorrow morning on Fox News Sunday. Check your local listings for the time it runs in your area. Or you can watch it here at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Time
internally
on Fox News.
And to accept his apologies.
Settlement talks will take place in a lawsuit involving the deadliest mass shooting in MGM Resorts International is being sued by plaintiffs in 7 states accused of negligence leading up to the Las Vegas Strip shooting that killed 58 people and injured hundreds more. The company owns the Mandalay Bay Hotel, where police say Stephen Paddock opened fire on concertgoers on October 1st.
Many places will be dry and sunny, but a northeasterly wind will bring showers to southern and eastern parts. There will be a cold start for most, with a frost in the north and west, and a scattering of showers in the east, concentrated over southeast England. The morning will be mainly dry and sunny, but there will be some potentially wintry showers around, with eastern England most at risk. It will be cold, although not as cold as Saturday, with a stiff wind in the southeast. The afternoon will turn fine to most, but showers will linger near North Sea coasts. The Hebrides and a few Irish sea coasts may see the odd shower too. Monday will be mainly dry and sunny, though there will be a few showers around, mainly near eastern coasts. The west of Ireland will be cloudier, with more general rain edging into the far west later. It will be cold again after a frosty start for many.
The Iron Dome intercepted missiles fired from the radical Islamic organization Islamic Jihad. The more than 35 rockets continued throughout the night as
this is Sky News coming up.
A series of airstrikes on weapons
Chasing the American Dream, a special report from inside one of Central America's biggest human smuggling
did not
operations.
claim responsibility for the rocket attacks. Israel has maintained that since the group controls the Gaza Strip, they're responsible for violent actions that originate in the 25-mile strip of land. The conflict comes as violent border protests continued Friday for the 31st week in a row, leaving 6 Palestinians dead. Egyptian negotiators so far have failed to reach a settlement agreement between Israel and Hamas, but have reportedly negotiated a ceasefire between Israel and the Islamic Jihad organization for the latest round of rocket fire. Fragile situation between Israel and Iran. John?
Trey Yingst. Trey, thank you.
071
Jewish congregation holding a vigil to mourn the loss of 11 members, gunned down in an act of mass murder this morning. We're live with the latest next. Plus, that caravan of migrants from Honduras is slowly making its way toward the United States. Why they rejected asylum applications in Mexico, and how asylum applications in Mexico, and how the West will respond to this flood of refugees flocking toward our southern border.
He had wheezing in the chest, difficulty breathing while we arrived. We gave him 5
When a nasty cold won't let you sleep, try new NyQuil Severe with Vicks VapoCold and vaporize it.
Current vitals are 189.
New NyQuil Severe with Vicks VapoCold, vaporizing nighttime coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleeping cold medicine.
We should be at your facility in about 5 minutes.
Always the potato.
Let me know when you get that lined up, and then I'll get terminals to go close their valves there if they have to close.
Perfect taste and texture to get your meal started right.
Have you ever seen something so beautiful that all you can say was, wow? Got wrapped in the world's best beach, at a place that made you feel like you were in a dream, where family comes first, and fun is measured one ride at a time. Where you're served like royalty, but treated
Yes,
like
I'll be working on duty at Twin Peaks till 3 a.m.
Turks and Caicos, where anything is possible, because everything is included. Wow! For 65% off. 1-800 Beaches.
These folks, they don't have time to go to the post office. They have businesses to run, customers to care for, lives to get home to. They use Stamps.com. Print discounted postage for any letter, any package, anytime, right from your computer. All of the amazing services of the post office.
It's all me. Everybody's mad at me for the alcohol.
A 4-week trial plus postage and a digital scale. Go to Stamps.com/TV and never go to the post office again.
Know what goes great with steak and shrimp? More shrimp. And you know what goes great with that shrimp? You guessed it, more shrimp. Steak and unlimited shrimp starting at $15.99. Only at Outback.
For drug-free sinus relief, get Navage, the only nose cleaner with power.
Welcome back. Sky News, the top stories this morning. At least 11 people have been shot dead and several more injured after a gunman targeted a synagogue in Pittsburgh. President Donald Trump has called it pure evil.
I used to fight depression with medications.
There are fears several people are dead after a helicopter crashed outside the King Power Stadium in Leicester following the side's Premier League game against West Ham.
Patients with certain metal or devices.
And Sir Philip Green says he'll file a complaint against a Labour peer who outed him as the businessman at the centre of allegations of sexual harassment and racial
worsening depression, suicidal thoughts, or actions.
Time now for a special report.
Talk to
Human
a doctor to see
Cargo.
if Neurostar is right for you.
It may look like a picturesque setting for a calm, serene day on the river. But this is one of the busiest illegal trafficking routes in the world.
Trick or treat.
The residence is on
Day and night, makeshift rafts cross the river border between Guatemala and
Bobby
Mexico.
says he thinks a ghost called 911. Ghosts aren't
You got the request in the cancel?
They bring cargo loads of alcohol, weapons.
All-new resident followed by an all-new 911.
But
Monday
also
on Fox.
these days, the most precious and fought-over cargo of all. Humans. It's a steady stream, seemingly without end. Most are heading north for the United States. The majority are escaping violent South and Central America. There is now a new, previously unthought
Christmas to children in need.
thousands upon thousands coming from around the world.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus, every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7. Channel 115.
To protect a business worth millions.
I'm John Scott, and this is the Fox Report. It's the bottom of the hour if you're just joining us. An outpouring of grief in Pittsburgh, where thousands of friends, neighbors, and members of the community gathered to honor the 11 victims murdered today.
It's a chilly, misty morning in Guatemala.
Is live.
The latest group of travelers hoping to get to Mexico and the United States.
John, we're just a few blocks from that synagogue, and as you can imagine, the scene right now is just heavy
is escaping
and raw.
the gang
For
violence
hours now, people have been standing out in the cold rain, singing songs and leading
want to make a
prayers.
new start.
These people say they're coming together tonight to counter fear, to tell the people of this neighborhood that they don't have to live their lives. These organizers say they couldn't wait until tomorrow. They couldn't wait another day. They had to be out here right now. And this is the center of the Squirrel Hill neighborhood. It's basically the main street intersection where there's restaurants and shops. Earlier tonight, just a stunning scene as thousands of people gathered for a vigil. First, they stood in the main street and near signs. And then
Daniela is 16. And Carla is 14 years old. They seem unaware how vulnerable they are and how dangerous their trip is. Although they admit they and their families are concerned.
Been through this horrible situation.
Are you scared of this trip? Are the family scared?
Just an unbearable time.
Muy asustada porque es primera vez que viajo. It's more like a recurring nightmare. And nunca hemos salido, entonces sí está preocupada.
We have talked to quite a few people who tell us tonight that they are not sure of the names of the people that were killed in the synagogue not far from here. And so many people say, I'm waiting to find out if this is someone that I do know. So you can imagine people just on edge here tonight because it's going to be a long and painful recovery. John.
A veces no tenemos para comer, nos hace falta la comida, nos hace falta dinero. Pues como yo he decidido salir de mi hogar para poder sacarlos adelante, yo también sé que estoy pequeña, pero lo hago por mi familia, porque los quiero y porque quiero que tengan una mejor vida.
It's our understanding that the names of the 11 victims are to be released at 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's going to be a whole new round of...
Here's a gang member. Crucially, he has the phone numbers and passwords to get past the dozens of gangs that lie ahead of them. There is no guarantee anything will be safe.
Sí, se escucha que en México es muy peligroso.
Pero si haces el trato con un coyote que tenga contactos en todo México, no hay problema, porque el coyote se va reportando con la mafia judicial, federal, migración, o no sé, toda clase de delincuente. El coyote se va hablando con ellos, ¿verdad? Le va pagando, le va pagando. Por eso el viaje de cada inmigrante de aquí de Guatemala para Estados Unidos sale caro, porque ese dinero lo van repartiendo, van pagando todo para que no les hagan daño.
The simple fact is that almost all people attempting this journey are touched by violent crime in some form or other. Robbery and assault are almost guaranteed. The abduction of young girls and their subsequent imprisonment in brothels
and
is so
now it has turned into such a tragedy for so many people. Just dealing with the funerals in a relatively short amount of time.
Almost all of the girls working the streets in the Mexican border town of Tapachula, where virtually all migrants pass, started their professional lives still dreaming of an ordinary life in the United States.
The community will be stronger.
Carolina is typical. She crossed the Mexican border trying to get to the United States. Within minutes, though, she was abducted by a man offering her
and support that we're already seeing this evening from the interfaith community and Pittsburgh at large. It must warm your heart a little bit.
Me llevaron a un lugar y yo no sabía, y me vendieron ahí, tuve que pagar todo ese dinero que le pagaron al triciclero, ahí fue donde empezaron a
When you say you were sold,
it's our understanding that this particular gunman was not on any police watch lists, not really on anybody's radar. Are you aware of any threats or any, public...
Have you gone beyond that now? Are you feeling better now?
Más que todo libre conmigo misma y pues tengo que echarle ganas porque tengo 2 hijos. Y pues los tengo que sacar adelante. La niña ya está grande, pero no la tengo yo, la tiene mi mamá. Pero más que todo me siento libre conmigo misma. Si quiero vengo a trabajar y si no, nadie me dice nada, nadie me regaña. En eso. Y antes no era así.
Today, is that kind of thing coming to the synagogues in Pittsburgh,
in southern Mexico?
We already actually have a police presence at some larger community events,
pass through here.
Including the
myriad
high
of cheap
holidays.
hotels
And
where
I
the travellers await their next
look
move.
at balancing realistically
One of the largest of the new travelling communities come from India, Pakistan and Bangladesh.
There's always
there are 5 curry houses in this street.
As well. And of course we'll be
each are paying between $30,000 and $50,000 to the smuggling syndicate. The new arrivals get an affectionate hug. Despite the VIP costs, the journey through 5 or 6 countries to this point has been horrendous.
Not letting this one tragedy and this one act of terror
like in
California.
19-year-old Sim Ranjit
you
says he is
cannot let
traumatized by his trip
the hater
with
and the hatred
syndicates.
win.
He was robbed
So,
by both the
starting
military
tomorrow
and
morning,
the police.
how do you
and in Panama
go
watched
about
as
healing?
injured travellers were executed.
Really, the first thing that we need to do is to
mafia has
mourn
weapon,
the passing
lots of weapon,
and to
like
come
gun,
together to help those people
sword,
who were injured and to help the families and friends the people who
We've heard that women are attacked quite a lot.
done that, we'll really take stock and figure
Were they
out
raped?
what the next steps
We are all Americans, and we are all hurting tonight. Condolences to you, Adam Hertzman, with the Jewish of Greater Pittsburgh. Thank you, sir.
The story, though, is not
The reward
unusual.
for
Aid
information
agencies say
leading
they've
to the
heard it many
whereabouts of a
times
missing
before.
Wisconsin girl is
What wasn't so
doubled
well
to
understood until now is the size and the
$13-year-old Jamie
sophistication of the
Kloss
smuggling
has
operation.
been missing since October 15th.
Tammy, another
Her parents
Indian
were found
on his
shot
way to the
dead in
United
their
States,
home in Barron,
said the
Wisconsin.
trafficking syndicates
Investigators
have
believe
operatives in
Jamie
every
was
country on the
abducted.
route. have a network of guides
thousands
to
of migrants from Central America pushing deeper into Mexico as they approach our southern border. What the Trump administration is doing to crack down further on illegal immigration.
And they also have contacting daily.
Plus, early voters in Texas raising major concerns about their ballots. Why they are saying the voting machines are malfunctioning and what authorities say is the reason behind the glitch. Details next.
A person under them. To control them from out of
we'd heard of Angie's List, but
I think so
we didn't
that
really know what it did.
I know they've got reviews for home pros, but so do a lot of websites.
I didn't want to pay to join. Then I found out it's free. Wait, it's free?
Free to check ratings.
The agents who organise the smuggling of people from all over the world have developed close working relationships
and now
with cartel
they'll even match
bosses
my project with
gang members
a few qualified pros for the job.
And it's all free.
To get the most reviews from real customers,
But
all
making
for
contact
free.
with
Go to
them
Angie'sList.com today.
I love you, Dad.
Nogales in northern Mexico is over 1,000 miles north of our gathering point for the international travellers in Tapachula.
I found myself saying
the border
that all
fence
the
stretches
time.
out
And
for
when I
miles
realized
on either
it, I just
side,
stopped
right
saying
through the centre.
And my life changed. I stayed home mostly alone.
Families split
Missed
by the
out on
fence
everything.
often meet at
I
weekends
felt like
to
that I
say
had
hello.
stopped living. It was
physically,
awful.
they're just inches
And I knew
apart.
I needed hearing
In
aids,
reality,
but the
they could
cost
be
was
split
ridiculous.
forever.
A state-of-the-art TV only costs about $600 or $700, but a tiny hearing aid costs $3,500.
It's a reminder that
Whatever
legitimate
they can
traffic
get.
isn't hampered by
It's
the
just
fence.
ridiculous.
With the right
Well, not
context,
anymore. Thanks to hearing assist, I can hear clearly again, and my life
We're
is
travelling
so
to a
much
secret
better.
location to
I
meet
got
the
a
people
pair of
who make the
rechargeable
crossing
state-of-the-art
possible.
digital hearing aids
Part
for
of
about
the
10
Sinaloa
times less
cartel,
than my
a vast,
doctor wanted to
powerful crime
charge.
organisation.
And they're FDA cleared.
They traffic people
I
these
really
days.
love my hearing
Their
aids.
business was
You
founded
can't
on
see
drugs.
them. And I never have to change the
They take
batteries
both
because they're
businesses very
rechargeable.
seriously.
And look how easy it is for me to charge them.
Yeah, you can see over
It's
here.
magnetic.
There's the store with
Hearing
the
Assist even let me try my hearing aids for 60 days so I could see if I like them.
If you want
I love you,
to
Dad.
see exactly
What?
what I got.
I said I love you.
I heard you the first time.
The success of the people smuggling
I just wanted to
operation
hear it
is
again.
founded on the now well-documented,
If you need
but
hearing
nonetheless
aids,
staggering
even if
efficiency
you already
of the
have
drug
them and want to
cartels
back
to
up,
move their products,
or if you're tired
be
of
it
changing batteries,
marijuana, cocaine,
Hearing
heroin, crystal
Assist
meth,
will
or
change
people
your
to
life.
its final destination.
And right now, you can buy 2 recharge hearing aids and have 60 days to try them. Call 800-501-1000
It's a dangerous business.
or
The
visit
gang members never stop checking
hearingassist.com
for
to order
suspicious
now for
movement
yourself or
outside
to
their
give the
so-called
gift of hearing to
warehouse.
someone you love. That's 800-501-1000.
Business depends on the link between the various groups over vast distances to coordinate
I've always had a problem
the
with
movement
sweaty
of the cargo.
hands.
My hands would be
Just
so
as the
sweaty. It
Indian
was just
boys
stressful. Do a lot of
They say
noise.
that
This was a big problem for
they
me.
pay.
We had really sweaty
there,
hands and feet.
and then
So we
they
created
pass from
Carpe
one person to
antiperspirant
another
lotion.
person to
Carpe
another
makes it so my hands don't
all the
sweat.
way from
Carpe is
South
like
America,
amazing.
You literally just put it on your hands and rub it in. I haven't had
Are you
sweaty
part
hands
of
in
that?
2
I mean,
years
you know
since I
their
started
company.
using Carpe.
Yeah.
Do you know Carpe has helped so many
Even from a
people
long
stop
time.
their sweaty hands and feet, including
Because
us.
you know, like
Get it
they-
today
like
with
say
free
you
shipping.
live in
At
Guatemala,
Carpe.
right? You send me people to here. So this phone, let me know. So no, I sent 2 guys, 3, 4, 5 guys. Okay. The people when they cross to Mexico and Chula Vista, no, Buena Vista, the Chiapas. So these people guys, they call me, got the guys already. So and then to when
Tie in with the
get to
stuff
Mexico,
going out of storage with the
different guys
ULSD.
that come, the people in Mexico. So when you send it to the guys,
It's really well done.
yeah.
For us, seeing how they work is the key. The gang gave permission to join one of their operations across the sea.
Hello, I'm Kieran Kaur with your showbiz news. Caitlyn Jenner has admitted her regrets over supporting Donald Trump as she criticised the president's stance towards the LGBT community. The 68-year-old had been a prominent backer of Mr. Trump during the 2016 presidential campaign, but she has now withdrawn her support following a leaked government memo proposing fundamental changes to the way gender is defined. The unreleased report from the US Department for Health and Human Services calls for a tightening of the legal definition of sex, excluding transgender and non-binary individuals. Piers Brosnan has reunited with the children from Mrs. Doubtfire to mark the film's 25th anniversary next month. James Bond star posted a video on his Instagram of his meeting with Mara Wilson, Matthew Lawrence and Lisa Yuku. He said Sally Field, who played the mum in the movie, is on a book tour and that Robin Williams is in heaven making the angels laugh. Ariana Grande has announced a world tour based on her latest album. The singer confirmed a string of dates across the US, beginning in Albany in New York in March 2019 and ending in New York City in June. In between, Grande will perform in cities including Chicago, Los Angeles and Dallas. International dates for the tour have not yet been announced. The Sweetener Tour will be Grande's first since 2017's Dangerous Woman Tour, which was interrupted by a suicide bomber at a concert in Manchester. And Little Mix have released the music video for their latest single, Woman Like Me, which features US rap star Nicki Minaj. It features members Jake Thirlwall, Perry Edwards, Leanne Pinnock and Jesse Nelson, seated in the back of what appears to be a riot van, before later dancing around a stately home. The song is currently number 5 on the UK singles chart. Woman Like Me will appear on Little Mix's upcoming album, LM5, which is due to be released on November 16th.
Now where they will head next is further in the city.
Still at the location, no shirt, driving number 6, then I was trying to hold him back. Everybody in the garage. One of the males had one suspect, Robert, second window near the garage. UAV on that.
President Peña Nieto, but also with the incoming President Obrador, because they believe they have a right to continue their march for asylum.
We've been given permission to join a smuggling operation.
It's very treacherous. They've been at this since
October 13th.
not seemingly to be broken, but we asked them here, many of them from Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador,
across the border
here
into the
that the
United
President
States,
says they're not going to be allowed to cross. They said,
we
if the
have
President has
people with us
mercy,
who are going to
they're
show
going
us
to
the way, and
continue.
we'll obviously
In San Pedro, Tapanepatech, I'm Griff Jenkins.
It's the first time they've let outsiders in.
Back to you.
It's never been filmed.
A ballot proposal that could have major ramifications not only for American farmers, but for shoppers trying to save money at the grocery store. Details on that straight ahead.
They want us to move quickly as the night closes in. This is a popular route with competing gangs, and they rent access to the border by the hour.
What is that? Oh, what truck brand
In the red and white shirt is Pedro, a guide.
full-size
Known
pickups
as
on the road?
coyotes.
I think it's the Chevy.
Wild desert dogs
Is it
know the
Ford?
routes to the USA.
Nope, it's not Ford. I think it's Ram. Is it Ram? Not Ram. It's Chevy.
Pedro tells me it's not easy.
Dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Gorgeous. Chevy hit it out of the ballpark with these.
You need both car and home insurance, so why not bundle them with Esurance and save up to 10%, which you can spend on things you really want to buy. Oh, I don't know what you'd want to buy because I'm just a guy on your TV. Esurance, it's surprisingly painless.
Yeah, we're getting near the border now, that's why we've gone into night shots, getting very dark up here. And they're very, very jumpy. They keep checking, seeing people coming, people with anyone around. And sometimes actually the authorities, but more other gangs, because everyone knows these routes. And they can be very, very dangerous as a result of that, because they start fighting among themselves.
Hello, Lee.
The boy has paid $5,000 to cross. He hopes to change his family's fortunes back home.
That's why we work every day, here in the U.S. and around the world, to give children a healthy start in life.
They move forward,
the opportunity to learn,
and they're gone.
And protection from harm.
A dark line.
When crisis strikes and children are at their most vulnerable, we're always among the first to respond and the last to leave. We roll up our sleeves, we raise our voices, we do whatever it takes to ensure children's needs are met and their rights are realized, delivering lasting results for millions of the world's most vulnerable children, just as we have since our founding nearly 100 years ago. When it comes to children, we know that even the smallest act can make a big difference. By changing children's lives
customer
now,
in a multi-million-dollar business delivery.
And ours.
Despite appearances, this is a lot more sophisticated than
How do you
simply
feel
a case
when
of
someone is
jumping
looking
offense.
over your shoulder?
Not all snoopers can be seen.
Delta 470,
Cyber criminals can steal your sensitive information. Hackers can intercept your data on public websites, but not with the NordVPN app. It helps protect your privacy by encrypting your online data, and it's so easy to use. NordVPN, your shield from online snoopers. Download and enjoy trusted internet security and privacy.
Impossible to police.
Are the credit cards in your wallet actually the best ones for you?
2,000-mile border. We switch section is little more than a wire fence with a few bits of old railway line welded together.
Another using your unique info to narrow the search. NerdWallet makes it easy to find credit cards
ready to draw
than the ones you have now.
It's not the Wild West.
Stop missing
it. It's the Wild West.
Visit nerdwallet.com to find the cards that are made for you.
Jim Chilton is a fifth-generation rancher in Arizona. Thousands of smuggled people and tons of drugs are transported across his land every year. In fact, he blames on the failure of authorities to stop.
Essentially, the Sinaloa cartel has control of this entire area. As you notice, we haven't run into a single border patrol.
to be somewhere
They don't come out. They've left this area basically
early voters in Texas raising concerns over what they say are malfunctioning
cartel. We're in a no man's land.
They voted straight down the
It takes 2 days to ride across Jim's ranch. A large section marks the border between the United States and Mexico.